All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the No Quarter Podcast.
Episode 19.
Idaho's
number one podcast.
Number one. That's not true, but
It is
we
true.
like to say it is true.
You're eventually gonna have to come to terms with the fact that it's fucking accurate.
You know, I'm going to just go with self-proclaimed at some point.
That's
and
bullshit.
then,
Everyone knows the truth.
yeah. But the thing is, like, you know, I don't know how nobody can sue us. We don't make any money, and we're not even.
Why could they sue us anyways?
I guess so. But who are they going to sue? I guess.
you can't say you're the best.
Yeah, they're going to have
Whatever,
to,
dude.
Whatever.
Bring me to court.
Anyways, episode 19. We are super excited. We have a guest today, Senator Brian Lenney of what's your district?
13, which is Nampa, Idaho.
Nampa, Idaho.
Yep.
Agreed to come in, talk to us a little bit about Idaho politics, kind of the nature of the system, of how our governance occurs in the state, and some of the problems that we're seeing, some of the good things that are occurring, and honestly, like, I'm just super glad you came in to talk to us, and
Thank you.
I'm grateful to have some perspective, because I think we're going to be able to ask some questions that your average person who is interested in politics, especially the conservative side, but may not have the connections or the reach to be able to ask questions that they really want answered. And I think that I fall into that category. You know what I mean? I'm pretty well aware of what I believe specifically, but there's certain things that I just don't know how to create perspective. And I think that there's a lot of people out there like that. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
No, it's fine. I think the good thing is probably for you guys is I just am an average person.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird being from, we were talking about this earlier briefly, being from California where there's been here 14 years. I've lived in Nampa since 2010. But make sure this is off so it doesn't ring. But, you don't meet, like, coming from a place like California with a full-time legislature, it's like this separate class of people.
Right. Yeah.
You'd be like, oh,
Absolutely.
you're in the legislature? Well,
Right.
not that you give a shit, really, but you're, like, you don't, like, just meet legislators.
You don't have access to them in any
and then
way.
here,
Right.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I came here, I didn't even think about running for, I didn't move here to run for shit. I didn't think about running for anything until all the pandemic happened. Idaho Statesman wrote an article about me, and I love it. They thought it was a burn. They said, Senator Lenney, who never mentioned the pandemic on the floor or in committee unless he did air quotes. So I say the pandemic.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I was like,
not a
you
burn at all.
guys think this is I couldn't even pay you for
Dude, isn't
better
that a
publicity.
McClatchy paper?
Yeah.
So the same
Yep.
fucking libs that are down in California. run
Yeah,
that.
But I mean, but I didn't think about, I still don't have any political ambition, to be honest. I'm just like doing it because I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. I get to sleep in my own bed every night, and I get to make a difference in the state and in the Senate. So we only have 35 senators out of 1.8 million people. And then we have the House of Representatives, which is kind of the other side of the legislature. There's 70. So each district has one senator and 2 reps.
Okay.
But in the Senate, especially more than anything, in Idaho, this sounds like cliche, but it's true. One of the reasons I did it, I got so pissed off, like most normal common sense people did during the COVID crap. And someone kind of painted a picture for me. They're like, dude, in the Senate, one person can literally make a difference.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a
Stuff
huge
comes down to
percentage of the
one vote. There's only 35 people. And I have 2 sessions under my belt, and there were several times where one vote, made a difference. So,
And you said you took office when?
2000. Well, I won my first primary in 2022. So you win it, and then you start the next year. So I did the 2023 legislative session, and then we just finished, obviously this year, the 2024 legislative session. The guy I beat was just a liberal Republican, basically a Democrat. Beat him pretty badly the first election, and he's from Idaho, just like good old boys club, whatever.
Well, they love to rely on the native, born and raised.
What they say, I'm a 5th generation, 4th generation. Literally nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. So I beat him by 15% in 2022.
Oh, it's huge.
Shellacking, as they say.
Yeah.
And then I was the number 2, and I just beat him again this year. He came back for a revenge tour, and he got his ass kicked again by 11%.
That's awesome.
And they spent almost just shy of 400 grand against me in a Nampa Senate race, which is unheard of.
400 grand.
That's a lot of
And
money.
I'm just in my backyard office on my computer. I don't have a campaign manager. I write all my own mailers. So I'm kind of a one-man show. That doesn't mean I didn't have help, because I had a lot of help, door knocking and all that. But yeah, Idaho, man, it's like it's the part-time legislature thing. You're in for 3 months, and then you just. I mean, for me,
You're in session for 3 months.
you're in session for 3 months, and then you just piss off and go back to normal life for the other 9 months. That's what I do. Some people make it a full-time job, but I refuse to. I mean, they go to all these meetings and events. I don't do that.
It's a beautiful thing, like the idea of a volunteer legislature. It almost necessitates that there are average people who are still working class, who are legislating they have the perspective that they are legislating for people just like them.
He does
do
pick
get
up the
paid.
phone, though. He does pick up the phone year round. So
Yeah.
We do get paid, but it's like minimum wage.
Right. Yeah. It's not much.
Ish. Yeah, but I mean,
I would call that volunteer.
yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to I didn't want people to think
Yeah, no,
that
no, that's fair.
But I mean,
McDonald's workers make more.
Yeah.
yeah, literally.
15.
Um,
Wild.
Here?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think people on the left, I should say, talk a bunch of shit about me because I'm a pretty far to the right these days, but 20 years ago I'm just a regular Republican. But everyone, like Elon Musk posted a few years ago, everyone else moved so far left it makes normal conservatives look far right. But it's like, dude, we stayed here and you just kept moving left and left and left and left.
Yeah.
But I think to Rob's point, I think I'm one of the most accessible legislators in the building. Email, phone calls, Twitter. People might not like what I say, but I usually.
I'm about to start fucking prank calling you.
Yeah, dude. You won't win because I'll just keep calling you back and like
Housekeeping?
yeah. I try to be accessible, but I also don't let people. Something I've noticed, especially like the past several days, a lot of people think that because I'm in the state Senate, I have to sit there and take their bullshit and let them.
They think you're obligated. You work for me.
Yeah, and people pull that. Like I had this lady call me today. She's like, left me a voicemail. I was asleep or I don't know. She called me. I got it this morning. I don't know when she called me. Last 24 hours, but she was like, I'm a Nampa voter. I'm a veteran. I'm this, and I have a non-binary kid, and I don't like your views on X, Y, and Z, and you will call me back, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm like, no, we fucking aren't. Like, I don't have to call you back.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to have a real conversation, yes. But if
you want to bark at me.
If someone, what's the point? Like Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine.
Yeah.
She's not going to change my mind. If she has a non-binary kid, we're not going to change each other's mind. So what's the point of having a
She
conversation?
probably just wants a fight and to catch you saying something she doesn't like that she can fucking.
Yeah.
soundbite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's good at those.
Yeah. I can play that game too, though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have fun. I think I tell people.
It's a hoot watching you, man. I wake up in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. The first person I go to, Elon and you.
Sweet. Yeah, I like to say I have the most when I'm talking to like new and I'm still pretty new myself. I just finished my first. I haven't even been technically a senator for 2 years.
I was like, technically,
next week I will
you're
be
sophomore, right?
Next week it'll be 2 years, but literally right now as we're filming this, it's been less than 2 years. But I always tell people, I'm like, I have the most fun in the building. But you can have fun while getting shit done too.
Sure.
So I try to do both. But the instant it's not fun or it's just really, really stressful, I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to do this. But that hasn't happened yet. I've had a great time.
Did you have political aspirations before going into the state senate?
Literally none.
None.
I haven't done anything. Like
still nothing.
PTA, city council, and I still don't really.
Like
I really
school board, nothing. Never
Nothing.
been-
I just
my
went-
question-
Though how COVID changed a lot of people's perspective.
Everybody woke up.
and everybody wanted to get
did.
involved.
It did.
And-
So it was COVID and how things shook out with COVID here in Idaho, your actual motivator for being like, fuck, now I'm going to get involved. Like, was that your actual motivator?
Yes. Yeah. And it was actually, a lot of people don't know this, but if you go, some internet nerds will, and not that it's hidden, it's just something I even kind of forgot. I heard a guy say once, he's in the House of Representatives now in Idaho, but he said when you get pissed off, you run for office. So everyone was pissed off during the
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID stuff. So I actually ran against Russ Fulcher for Congress for like a month. And because I'm like, oh, I got to run for something. You know, I got to do so someone's like, dude, you're not going to win. I'm like, well, I know I'm not going to win for obvious reasons. He's in,
But it can create some kind of pressure.
But I was just like, well, somebody has to run against him. And it wasn't even him per se.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that. But it wasn't like, oh, he's really bad, I'm going to run against him. It was more like, well, I'm in his district, and I hate personally seeing people run unopposed. So I'm like, well, somebody has to run against him. And then I talked to some people, they're like, dude, you're not going to win. Why waste your time? Why, if you're going to run for something, run for state something, because you can actually make a difference and you can win with very little money. And I beat, the guy I beat twice, so I'm undefeated. I beat him with very little money. My first election in 2022, the Republican primary, only like barely even knowing what I was doing. You know, I knew enough to win, but I only raised like $12,000.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
And this last one I raised, I think I'm at like 66,000 or something
Wow.
this year. But my first year, just some random ass dude out of Nampa, I'm going to run for Senate.
That's all
raised
grassroots?
$12,000 and just destroyed the guy. So
That's all grassroots fundraising?
90+% is from individual people. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the longer, and I know this isn't exclusive to Idaho, but the longer people are in. So on the Idaho website, if you Google Idaho Sunshine, you can look at like donations and who gave money to who. The longer people are in, so they separate it by, it says person and company. And it's like, a bar chart. So mine right now, it's like people, and then company is little. And then the longer people are in, it's almost like all PACs and special interests and companies and corporate interests. And then maybe they got like a handful of people gave to them. Mine's been, I used to have the percentage, but it's only been two elections. It's something like 80 plus 90% are like individual people. So
It's awesome.
it's kind of cool.
What's the percentage of incumbency in the Senate? Do you know? I know that's super random, but like I'm curious how much turnover there is in the state legislature.
Usually it's like single digit.
Okay. Incumbency or turnover?
Well, the turnover is usually single digit,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But in 2022, we replaced like we replaced almost half the legislature,
That's awesome.
and with just regular people mostly. Some
Citizens.
people retired, some people didn't run, but 2022 we have 105 legislators. I think 40 something were brand new,
Man,
just
that's
like
amazing.
me. And then so the establishment politicians thought it was like a fluke. So they said, hey, COVID, and it was a fluke. And so they thought 2024 they'd have their comeback tour, and that did not happen. It did in some races. You're not going to win everything, but we still, from where I sit, we gained this year. We did what we did in 2022, just in a smaller scale. I think we have a couple more conservatives in the Senate and a handful more in the House.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm pretty
Dude,
stoked.
this website's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the Sunshine
When you
website?
see him over there on the phone, he's googling.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you.
Jeremy's our
I
young
did not
Jamie.
hear a thing you just said, but
Yeah.
I did find out that Anheuser-Busch did donate to Brad Little.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So the guy I ran
And Dylan
against,
Mulvaney.
yeah, the guy I ran against, he had Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and I forgot another one donate. Like all the big pharma, Monsanto, Bayer donated to him also.
Can you refuse donations? So like, let's say they just come in and throw money at you. Can you, just
can
like refund it?
There's some people, if I got a donation from any big pharma group, I'd laugh my ass off first, and then I'd send it back. You can send them back.
Or can you like?
you
I
can
think
even
I'd
see
take
what
that
they-
money and then like donate it to an opposing.
You can do whatever you want with it.
You can even see
not
where,
whatever you want, but
Yeah.
where people spent money.
you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, Brad Little spent $614 on Idaho State Tax Commission.
You know where else Brad Little spent shit tons of money on is again trying to unseat conservative senators, but he only there was a
Really?
there was a
This goes to my big question.
there was a hit list on that, and I was from what I've been told by people who know, it was Scott Herndon who they actually beat.
Yeah, that sucks.
Myself, Senator Tammy Nichols, Chris Trakel, and Glenita Zeiderveld. So Brad Little, what they did is they do all these fundraisers, right? And this isn't like illegal. It's just kind of like when you follow the money, there's only a few steps. So governors, PACs, Friends of Brad Little for Governor, whatever they're called, raise X amount of money, several $100,000. They give, I don't have it right in front of me, but they give several $100,000 to this group. This group gives 100,000 here, 100,000 here, 100,000 here, and these third-hand groups then take out TV ads. They ran TV ads against me for 9 months saying I was like a rhino and I hate the police and all this bullshit. Didn't work, obviously.
Yeah.
But you trace that money back, it's just like you raise the money. So Brad Little sent out mailers all over Idaho saying, hey, support me as we fight Joe Biden and keep Idaho from becoming California. But instead of attacking liberals, he used it to attack conservatives because
That sounds like a straight pussy ass move. Am I allowed to say that?
You can say whatever you want, bro. It's our podcast.
I shouldn't even be apologetic.
It's the
for what
number
I say
one
on our
podcast.
It is the number one podcast. Well, here's the thing.
His wife was like,
you
"Be nice."
I mean, you follow my personal Instagram,
Bro, yeah.
That shit's fucking unhinged.
Yeah.
And there have been many a times
I
where
gotta follow it now,
I'll
too.
tag
Yeah.
Brad Little and be like, "Hey, stop being a fucking fag." This, and this, and I'll tag him. I'll go, dude. If I am such a firm believer that I want politicians to be fearful.
they
of
should be.
fucking
There is a level of irreverence that is like almost necessary.
Yeah, like you should be scared we're gonna drag you out by your fucking feet.
If for nothing else to check the ego. It's like your self-proclaimed ruling class bullshit just does not fly amongst.
We've had this conversation so many times. He calls me and texts me, dude. So why does everybody hate Brad Little?
So,
And I'm
okay,
like,
so-
hold on.
Yeah, so
Well, it's
I'm-
because Brad Little paid off a $200,000 loan to himself. That's
Yeah.
fucking weird.
With campaign money.
No, what they do is with campaign money.
So basically he
So instead
lent
of giving
his
him
campaign
yes.
money and then he's paying himself back.
Yes.
with interest.
So
what
instead I don't think with interest.
no interest.
People
It's
do that
205.
without. So like I didn't donate shit to myself. I'm like, if I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win. I'm not gonna like spend my own money to
Yeah.
do a job.
Well, it's like, do other people want me
But
here?
here's-
or
Yeah,
not?
exactly.
Like,
Here's
and
my
that's really
problem
what
with
it comes down
I
to.
don't think Brad Little should have $200,000 fucking dollars to just give himself.
I
he
mean,
does.
I don't know about
does.
that.
Very clearly.
he's been
Taking money from a lot of people.
I know
been
he's
in
got a lot of
Idaho
land.
for a while. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Carry on.
No, I think this topic. I mean, and I know Rob's got a couple like specific and pointed questions. I know that there is a lot of dissent amongst the Idaho GOP, and for the average voter that hears on one side, Brad Little's a rhino, and we've got to get some of this, establishment GOP out because they're not true conservatives. But then they see, well, like my property taxes are going down. My income taxes is substantially lower than it ever was living in California or Washington or not Washington. They don't have income tax, right? But especially in California, their wallets feel fat. They're happy where they're at. Generally speaking, it is a much more conservative state, which has been governed the way it's been governed for a long time. So can you help me understand, like, why is there this dissent? Obviously there's some, if he's spending money against conservatives, that's concerning, but why? Where does all of this root from?
I would say, yeah. I mean, if we're comparing Idaho to California, it's like, yeah, we're doing most areas we're doing pretty good,
Pretty well.
But there's a few things where I think California actually does better than Idaho. I don't want to go down the rabbit holes. Just little
Beaches.
nerdy, yeah, beaches.
Ocean, burritos, Mexican food,
Yeah,
Chinese
Mexican food
food
for sure.
Yeah, Mexican food and beaches are two of them.
Yep.
And temperate weather. So Idaho's, I wish I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
That's fine.
Our budget, for example, from 2020 to now, like spending in education has gone up like over 50%, the budget. So in roughly 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, I think it's the numbers like right on the tip of my tongue.
$2.1 billion. Does that sound familiar?
We've seen double-digit growth in pretty much every education, Medicaid expansion. We're growing at a rate that's just ridiculous. Our overall budget growth is double digits like year after year. So what an appropriate rate of growth would be what it's supposed to be basically is population growth plus inflation, which would be around depending on the year and where you're starting from or whatever. But basically, in the last few years, it's somewhere in the low 30%.
Okay.
So you should expect year after year, hey, with population growth plus inflation, say it's like 32%. So like a 32,
There's a round estimation.
yeah,
that is
somewhere in the
reasonable.
low 30s, budget growth is appropriate and acceptable. When we've seen like 69, 70% budget growth year after year in the past several years, and a lot of that was all the Biden bucks and the COVID money and the ARPA funds. So we're coming in and we're growing government at a ridiculous rate, but we still have like income tax. Brad Little ran on getting rid of the grocery tax.
Oh yeah, and that hasn't gone.
And the grocery tax, it's not going to save anyone. It's cool. It's not going to change anyone's life financially, but the
No.
principle of being taxed on food is still ridiculous. Now, I don't hear people bitching about the grocery tax, like actual Idahoans. There's outside groups who try to stir up trouble and cause trouble about it. In Idaho, I'm all for getting rid of the grocery tax. I had a bill to do it last year. They would have phased it out in 2 years, the tax and the credit. So it's like, why do we have a grocery tax? Why are we paying income tax when we have neighboring states who pays? Well, we can't get rid of income tax. How would we live? I'm like, how do the other states live who don't have income tax? We can make it. So I think a lot of the criticism from conservatives is specifically to the governor is the rate at which we are growing government. We have a stupid amount of like bureaucracies and just we only have 1.8 million people in the whole state. When you look at how many institutions and bureaucracies we have, you'd think we're like
Huge.
gigantic. So it's like, hey, let's just slow the growth a little bit. So for example, I argued on the Senate floor, we have these things called stabilization funds in the I laugh because it's just like so stupid. But we have these things called stabilization funds, like an education stabilization fund. They're divided. Just think of buckets of money in the Capitol. Mm-hmm. This one's for education. This one's for healthcare, whatever. So we have. I don't know. Again, I don't have any chart. I don't have anything in front of me because I didn't know what we were going to talk about. But towards the end of session, it was over $1 billion with a B, $1 billion in stabilization funds, just sitting. Like rainy day fund, just sitting.
Like unallocated?
Yeah, unallocated in case it gets really bad one day. And so one of the arguments I made is, hey, I don't really give a shit. You can't say shit on the Senate floor, but I can say it on Idaho's #1 podcast.
Absolutely can.
Wait, what happens if you do?
Actually, I was really close to trying it. You would just get
censured or something?
You would just you'd get someone stand up. I object. That's against nothing really.
Yeah.
Like
It's just
legally,
it's parliamentary.
You just get your
etiquette.
hand. You just get your hand slapped. So I think it'd be kind of funny to hear someone do it. I'm not advocating it, but
Am I allowed to go talk on Senate floor?
you can from the balcony if you you'll get removed by ISP. But
It's like shit. And then
you
just-
can like you get your hand slapped for saying just I do. I was one of the only ones in the Senate who ever got objected. Like just saying normal stuff.
Yeah.
People
Being
like
a normal
I said,
person.
hey, we shouldn't use taxpayer money to cut kids' genitals off. I object. And then the lieutenant governor's like, hey, this is a very sensitive topic. I'm like,
It's not sensitive at all.
It's pretty cut
I
and
don't
dry.
want to mutilate kids' genitals.
Yeah.
Period. Like this
Yeah.
is.
But-
There's nothing
We
sensitive
shouldn't even
about
have
it.
to talk about kids' genitals.
yeah, the fact that
exactly.
we're even talking about it now is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I mean, so we have $1 billion in stabilization funds, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going down the ADD rabbit holes, but I'm
That's okay.
bringing
We
it
do
back
all-
full circle.
We do it all the time.
So I said, hey, instead of, and we can find the clip and you guys can maybe add it into this or something later if you want. But I was on the Senate floor. I'm like, instead of stabilizing the government, I'm more interested in stabilizing Idaho families. We have $1 billion of overtaxed money. You know, some of it's federal money. You know, it gets there in a lot.
Give
but
it back to the people.
yeah,
back to the people.
give us our money back. Why are we paying? So for the people who are like, what would we do without income tax? What would we do without grocery tax? I'm like, we have $1 billion in savings.
Yeah.
We have a bloated governments and bureaucracy. So I think high level criticism from conservatives toward the current governor and his bureaucratic ilk is overall big picture. If I could just say one thing, I'd say it's the rate we are growing government. We're going to bankrupt ourselves in a few years because they also used a lot of this one-time COVID money, all the
it's
Biden bucks.
unsustainable.
So they use that. It's supposed to be one-time money, and a lot of it they did like we built a dam and shit that has nothing to do with COVID. They used it for one-time stuff, but they also just it's a lot of it was, in my opinion, like fungible. They just put it in the big pot.
Yeah.
So we're growing government with all this one-time money, and that money has to be spent by 2026, I believe. And then after that, it's like, okay, what?
Now
So-
what?
Okay, now we don't have this well, unless we have another fake pandemic and they start handing out money again. But cool, we grew government like this with all this one-time money. Well, now the one-time money's dried up. So are we going to have a lot of cuts in the future? Medicaid expansion and education have taken up way too much of our budget. So it's just those growth things. I think I think that's my because I mean, look, Governor Little, he just signed we've done a lot of really cool shit, conservative stuff in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And he signed most of it. Like he's no Gavin Newsom or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I think coming, I think the bar is pretty high for like a true principled conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just like to see you get closer to that bar. But he's done some good stuff. Like we got boys out of girls' bathrooms. He signed that bill. He signed a library bill.
Right.
We talked about this.
I think he signed a library bill, I would say under duress from the way because he signed it, then he put out a little thing afterwards, like, I signed that damn bill, just like kind of like, guys, leave me alone, to keep obscene materials out of the hands of children. He signed a bill that said,
Which would be common sense in any other.
yeah, it's crazy we even need bills. So he's my very first bill I passed last year when I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, like brand new, like I think I was in there 6 weeks and got this signed and passed. The health freedom, and I don't mean abortion, but I mean like, the mask and the vaccine mandates. That's like pretty high up on my radar. So my first bill, I think it was, I guess it doesn't matter, but I think it's Senate Bill 1029 from 2023, was a bill that says CPS cannot use a child's vaccination status to determine parental rights, like in a court proceeding, or to initiate an investigation. Like, hey, we heard Joe Blow doesn't vaccinate his kids. Let's go kick down their door and send the sheriff. So they can't use a vaccination status. So that was my first bill. Little signed that. So it's not like he's this evil whatever, but when you look at like a DeSantis or something, you're like, oh, more of that. Let's do more of that.
Well, I mean, he's like lizard people class. You know what I mean? He's like he's just one of these others who comes from a world of governance that has no real connection to the people that they govern. And I don't. To me, Little doesn't strike me as that kind of individual. But I hear frequently my biggest criticism of Little would be his conduct during COVID. I think that there was a lot that could have and should have been done protecting people who dissented against vaccine mandates, especially the masking. Look, I am one who believes that, look, if a private company wants to say, hey, you need to wear a mask in my lobby, like, that's your right. But this is why I believe in free market capitalism. It's now up to us to vote with our dollars.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly content with that. But when you're talking about major employers in a state who are doing broad scale layoffs because people are not wanting to get vaccinated, that's a real problem. And those are the types of things that
some major corporations are paying out some big bucks now.
they are now, but that doesn't help people who lost their livelihood.
Oh yeah, Micron was one of those. Like
Yeah.
Right.
there's all these companies. Yeah, and those are the issues. What got me, again, with all the shit talking from leftists who don't like the fact that we're like, look at me, we are legislature now. That a lot of new California type people are in the people who are from California, but I've been here like 14 years. It's a lot of it is, like, oh, you're a carpetbagger and this. I'm like, I've been here 14 years. I was here for 12 years before the thought even entered my mind to even consider thinking about running for something, But all those, the mask mandate stuff, we can wake up tomorrow and have another mask mandate. I had a bill this year passed the House with a veto-proof majority. I want to say at least one. I'm in a committee, even a Democrat voted for it, an anti-mask mandate bill, and it was for government institutions and schools saying, hey,
Right.
we're never going down this road again. Passed the House with overwhelming majority. It was like 60 something to, it was veto-proof majority, gets over to the Senate, and the chairman of the committee it went to wouldn't even hear it. He said, there's no interest in hearing this bill. COVID was like 2 years ago. He goes, do we really want to relitigate COVID and punish cities? I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Like, and he said, people don't want to hear this. I'm like, people don't want to hear this. Why did it just pass the House in committee and on the floor with a veto-proof majority? Like, people want to hear this. We don't want to have to go. We don't want to see
who
kids.
was the person that said no to this? You don't have to say his name, but
No,
what
I
was
don't-
his
No, he's a
position?
public legislator.
No,
So
it's
like-
Jim Guthrie. He's a senator down like southeast Idaho.
Jim Guthrie needs to be gone.
He just won his election again, and well, next, I'm depending on whoever's watching this. As we are filming this now, we have our leadership elections in 1 week in the Senate, so we'll see who the new chairmen are or who's what. Or
So he's a senator, but he's also the chairman.
he's the chairman of the committee who refused to hear my mask bill. I had a bill to get rid of DEI. He would not hear that.
What
And
gives this fucking cuck the right to say no to that if it's passed? You don't have to agree.
no. I just
Fuck him then.
I
I told my kid when we first moved here and he went straight into public school, I said, if anyone ever tells you to wear a mask, he was instructed at 6 years old to say, fuck you, no, call my dad. Those were the exact sentence. I looked at him, I said, say it. And he said, fuck you, no, call my dad.
so
This
if
is
you're
where
I'm about it.
if you're a committee chairman,
Yeah.
it is your prerogative to hear or not hear any bill you
And
want.
it's up to the person.
Literally one person.
That's
yes.
fucking
What do you
gay.
think his constituents thought about that? Obviously, they didn't care because they
They
He's
voted
been
him back
real.
in.
He's been in.
Yeah.
I think he's the longest serving senator, so they apparently don't mind.
So we don't have
Wow.
to. There's no term limits then on.
Oh
our
God,
legislature.
there.
What's his name again?
Jim Guthrie. There were term limits before I even, I think, lived here, or maybe it's right after I moved. It was a while ago. They did I forgot who was behind it because I forgot if I.
He looks like a fucking idiot.
I was.
Did he stroke out?
I don't think so. No,
Really? That's just his face?
that's his face. Yes.
God damn.
There was a citizens a ballot initiative to enact term limits.
Yeah.
And it went to the it obviously people like I'm all for term limits.
Yeah.
You know, people are like the term limit is the ballot box. I'm like, I get that, but I'm also I know most people are for term limits.
Well, and
went to the
there's a lot of
legislature and they
uninformed-
repealed it.
Well, and there's so many.
That's crazy.
They repealed it. Yeah.
There's so many voters who don't take the time to do their due diligence and research, and so all they are going to do is vote R or vote D instead of really putting in the effort to understand who they are voting for. Because here, I mean, this is a GOP state. I mean, our primaries are our elections.
Exactly.
And-
85% of them
they
are.
tried to take
So
that
what-
away from us too.
And our yeah, they did. That got squashed big time.
What committee
But-
was this? Was this
Senate State Affairs
But our
Committee.
GOP is very split.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so right now, I think, 2022, we took a massive turn to the right
Good.
politically.
Yeah.
And then the people who don't understand, and there are some people in the legislature who are not as conservative as I am, but they're also not as liberal as some of our liberals are in both parties. They're kind of like, they're not this like very far to the left, but they're not where I am. They're kind of in the middle, like actually kind of a true moderate. And even a lot of those people just kind of said, oh man, this is Idaho's going that way. I'm going to kind of scoot to the right. But the people who don't know how to read the room, they still campaigned this year, and they campaigned this year like we're back in like 2016. I'm like, no, dude, Idaho has got very conservative just in the past 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And
So-
I would say that's a lot of the out of state influence.
Most of it
the
is.
people
Oh, for
that
sure.
just ran from oppression, like us.
Oh yeah.
Well, we came to Idaho to ensure our kids get
Well-
a good upbringing, and
Yeah.
all. We wanted red. That's why
Yeah.
we came here.
Yeah.
People that were left of center, even just who were leaving California, didn't
And it's
come
not
here.
just California.
But
It's
I
Washington,
agree with you.
Oregon, New York, Texas.
But they didn't come to Idaho.
You know,
Well, we don't.
They
want the
went
New
to
Yorkers.
Austin. They went to, you know what I mean? They went to Montana. You see them going other places. You don't see a major influx of liberal ideology here.
Tennessee, a lot of people went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm looking at the future of Idaho, and especially if Trump manages to keep himself alive before he gets
Yeah.
sworn in. Like if Trump does half the shit he says he's going to do, and with where Idaho is at currently and where we're going, the future looks very bright.
Oh, that's great.
I'm glad to hear that from inside of
Yeah.
the inner workings of how the state is run, because again, like, I mean, we've had, and I think it can get a little sensational on the outside, but when you hear that opinion of like, oh, you know, we're really close from going back to the way California was, like, I'm glad to hear that we are leaning further into our conservative tendencies, and you know, the greater majority of the voters here want that.
Yeah, and I think Prop 1, defeating Prop 1 a few weeks
Huge.
ago.
Huge.
If we would have voted for Prop 1, we would be looking like Colorado pretty soon.
Real quick.
So
I'd be high
that
as
was,
fuck, though.
I thought it was going to be
I would.
I thought it was going to be a lot
saying.
closer, but it wasn't even
Yeah.
close at all. So the fact
No.
that we just obliterated that, you know, that these out of group like communists spent like $5.5 million to push
Yeah.
Prop 1.
Huge.
And they got their asses handed to them.
And what was the?
badly?
I mean, who spends that kind of money on a losing game?
Out of state, you know, 4 million of it. They raised like 5.5 million ish. I don't have the final exact number in front of me, but 5.5 million. 4 million of it was from out of state groups.
Yeah, no, but who? I mean, who does that? Like who? Like what?
Maybe they were trying to make it a winning game.
Follow the money.
Yeah, we're gonna have to follow the money.
There's
on this.
there's a website called Open Secrets also that you can do the whole follow the money rabbit trails on.
There you go.
But there were some groups, just out of state groups, were pushing that in Idaho because, you know, if you think about it, like if you're like some World Economic Forum, George Soros globalist shitbag, you look at Idaho, you're like, there's only 1.8 million people there.
Right.
We can
spend that much money,
dude. You can win a Senate race with 12 grand. like
Yeah.
people. So all that money comes in because they try to throw their weight around. But I mean, you got Trump winning, but even our local elections, I was just elated for at least
Yeah.
a week. Like, okay, Idaho's. I thought for a
Breathe.
while there, man, I don't want to look like Colorado or Oregon
Not
or
really.
Washington.
No.
But there's, you know, I'm very hopeful for our immediate future. Like I'm a part of a group called the Idaho Freedom Caucus, and it's just what it sounds like. Just a bunch of conservative legislators kind of get together. We still have friends who aren't a part of it and vice versa, but we just like to, you know, everyone has their little posse or their gang. But our kind of big, like high level, 1,000,000-foot view vision for Idaho going forward and the things we're going to be working on are making Idaho, and I don't mean, well, let me say it first and I'll qualify it. Making Idaho like a sovereign state. Not like those idiots you pull over on YouTube, like, I'm a sovereign,
sovereign citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't pull me over. Then it ends with them going in cuffs.
Yeah. Some of
Although,
my favorite videos to watch.
although I have seen some court videos. Have you guys seen these videos of the guys who do it right? These sovereign citizen guys. It's actually, there's a way they can go to court. I actually 1 week ago, I was watching videos with the buddy. He goes, "Let me watch this video. It's a guy goes to court, sovereign citizen, blah, 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 all this stuff. The judge gets up, bows to him, and leaves the courtroom.
What?
It was legit.
It was real. And there wasn't just one video. There's another one. This guy's, I don't know enough we don't have time to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh
but
man, that's a whole other podcast.
And there was another one. This guy's arguing, you don't have, basically the, doing the ADD thing again, but it's fine because that's what podcasts are for.
That's exactly what
Basically, the United, as most people know, I think most people know, the United States of America is essentially a corporation. That's why we have Washington, D.C. is not like, and if you're a citizen of the United States, you're essentially an employee of the corporation. Thus, you are subject to the corporation's rules and statutes. And so basically, if you go to court and you're like, I'm not a citizen of the United States. I'm a free person of Idaho. My name is Brian Lenney. Basically, you say you don't have jurisdiction to try me in this court. And I told my buddy the same thing. I'm like, well, he goes, dude, just watch. And this guy, you have to know exactly what to say. And this guy does all this stuff. Literally, I'm not kidding. The judge gets up, bows to him, leaves the courtroom, and the guy goes, case dismissed, walks out. No one touches him. And so that's a rabbit hole to go down.
I gotta see, but there's a whole bunch of legal like preface.
Yeah,
like, you've got to go.
It
down,
sounds like it's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'm like, just get a damn driver's license, man. Just
right.
like get a fishing license. I
Because
don't care.
regardless of all that, like you're still subject to arrest. You're still subject to, you know, all of these like standards for citizens. Like you can't drive on the road without
well, I don't know enough. I'm not part of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this guy I knew showed me like just open the cracked the door open a little bit. I'm like,
little
holy
bit.
crap! I'm like,
Oh, there's some validity
there's something
to it.
there. But what my original
Interesting.
point was like, what we're trying to do in the Freedom Caucus and with our conservative other legislators and people, we're trying to make Idaho a sovereign state. We're trying to reduce dependence on the federal government. I think the biggest problem we have in Idaho, put like politically or whatever you want to call it, speaking, is we are overly dependent on federal money.
Yeah.
You know, the feds owned most of our land. The feds, it's something, again, I don't have the exact numbers for November, whatever, 20-something today is. But it's like right around half of our budget is federal money. You know what I mean?
Do we have enough of an economy to be able to be independent?
As long as
And
Simshot's
sovereign?
open, we're doing fine, guys.
It depends on how you slice it.
Okay.
There's ways to do it. So like, for instance, and I'm not going to go, there's good arguments on both sides. There's the federal lands issue. So the federal government owns like 60-something% of our land.
This is that whole wind project. That
The
we were
BL,
talking about, yeah.
I mean, it's like BLM. So there's, I think there's good arguments on both sides, because some people say Idaho should control our land, and then we can lease our land for mining, timber, grazing, et cetera, and then that money will pay us. But then kind of the fear is for people who are saying, hey, the Fed shouldn't own our land, is Idaho's just going to sell it, and then you have all these assholes.
You become Texas, where there's no public land.
Yeah. Then you have then we just sell it to rich assholes, and they board it all off, and now there's no recreation, there's no hunting, there's no fishing. So I'm like, valid points on both of those, and then the solution, the BLM also closes the Department of the Interior. There's one of my favorite fishing spots in Canyon County got closed off
Bring this up.
because the Department of Interior. I just went there one day. There's just a sign, just shit. I just can't fish here anymore. They actually got back to me. They're like, oh, we're closing this off for a project, blah, blah, blah. So it's like you either have BLM keeps it and they lock it down, or Idaho gets it back. And I favor Idaho gets it back, but we don't just sell it. We could lease it because we could make money. So to your point, if we made money leasing land to miners and timber operations and graze, like there's a lot we could do with the land that could make money that would then substitute for like the PILT money. There's no like black and white solution,
Right.
I guess. There's no like keep the land, sell the land. It's in my opinion, it's a very nuanced conversation, but I'm not in favor also of let's let Idaho take our lands back and then we'll sell it all. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's some people, if you even say Idaho should control Idaho lands, they immediately like, you want to sell it all to rich billionaires and done it. And I'm like, no, I actually don't.
No, I'm a favor of public land. Like,
So
I'm an outdoorsman.
how do we get Idaho to control the land and then tell the government of Idaho to fuck themselves?
It's got to buy it from the federal government.
Supreme Court. There's a Supreme Court case going on in Utah right now. That's basically the Supreme Court has. I don't know the legalese. They have a lawsuit sitting on their shelf. So there's a lawsuit asking the Supreme Court to rule on this thing to say, is it? I'm paraphrasing, but basically, is it constitutional for the BLM to just hold all this land and sit on it and do nothing?
Yeah.
So
Oh, man, that's a precedent.
The thinking is, if the Supreme Court even hears it and they say no, it's not, then it will start. Okay, well, what's the next step? Or they could say, yeah, they can sit on it and do whatever they want. Then we're just fucked. But I mean, our dependence on federal government and our big budget is there because we have people in office who create big programs and bureaucracies, which then need money to fund. So the biggest, and I know this isn't exclusive to Idaho, but I think the biggest problem is people who they think they're there to grow the government and make money for the government. So they're just constantly grow, and we're in there saying, hey, let's stop this. Do we really need this? Do we need a Hispanic Affairs Commission? Do we need a women's commission? Do we need half the shit we have? I'm like, what? Why are we even doing this?
It's grinding sausage.
So yeah, I'd rather go in there and just make some major cuts, have a smaller budget, smaller bureaucracies. If we cut things, but I feel like I'm just like, what's the word when you just talking into the wind, or I feel like it'll never happen.
Yeah.
Like I want it to happen, and you can go back and look at debates I've done on the floor and in committee where we're arguing against like, let's stop expanding Medicaid, let's stop doing this, let's stop doing this. But I think most people in politics are more, they just are. I think the majority of politicians or people in elected, I hate being called a politician, most elected officials are like go along to get along.
You
Yeah.
know, I was told to be nice to you before
You don't have to
came
be
in.
nice to me, man.
No,
Say
no,
what you
not by
want.
these guys.
Yeah.
No,
But
his
people
wife.
that know me personally are like, hey, just be nice.
No, I mean,
And I was like, oh, okay.
In the text thread, like literally, like we wake up, like, "Are you guys excited today?" And his response is, "I fucking hate politicians."
no, so do I.
I've met
for
you
real.
before, and that's what I was like, no, I've met him. He's dope, good guy, and like I have an understanding of necessary evil, right? Like,
Yeah.
there needs to be some dudes
Someone
that have
has to
our
do it.
backs doing what you're doing,
Right.
Opposed to some of the shitheads that I
And
really don't like.
my cop out is I think and this is just my cop out because I hate when I'm called a politician, but I think a politician is someone who does it full time. Like this
Yeah.
is like Congress. You're a politician. You're
Yeah.
a bureaucrat. Whatever. The governor. Someone who. But I mean, we have a part-time citizen legislature.
Yeah.
We're there for 3 months. I'm there for 3 months, and I go fishing all summer. That's all I did.
Yeah.
What have you been doing this summer? Working on legislation, going to conferences. I'm like, been catching bass.
There you go.
And I caught some pike.
yeah, that does
and I-
definitely hardly constitute politician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm
more
like
of a fisherman.
I'm like I'm a part-time public servant.
Yeah. There you
Politician for me is someone, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but I do kind of like politician. It's like that's what you do. Like I have
Yeah.
my own
Well,
job.
this
I
is a
run my
career.
own business.
It makes it approachable too, because I think for people who are maybe similar to you, interested in serving their state, their communities,
Yeah.
in a level of public office, but I have zero interest in being a full-time politician.
Neither do I.
But
yeah.
I may approach a part-time situation where I can have real positive influence and impact over
Yeah.
the things that are most important to me. That makes it really approachable, which I think is important, because at a certain point, we've got to turn over these old generations of long-standing politicians
Yeah.
who are there for the power.
We gotta get the old dudes out.
Right. But and to your point, like it's super important
and the
that,
old chicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's super important that we are
I don't assume.
yeah. Well, that's fair.
The thing is, I don't think the system was ever designed to be full time.
No.
I mean, I really don't think it was. And they've made it careers, and they've done this insider trading, these stock tradings, these sweetheart deals.
We're talking about
and
Nancy
they've all
Pelosi.
gotten rich, filthy rich, and then they get drunk on the power and the money, and then they get to use us as the pawns.
I would like to
Exactly.
do that though.
Yeah, I was like,
Get rich?
I want to go to Congress. I want to get elected to Congress. Just go for one term, come back with a few million in the bank, and then call it a
we
day.
call it good.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't sound like a bad business plan.
It doesn't. I mean, yeah, just 2 years of living in a swamp. But
Because you really do have to pretty much just relocate.
I'm like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, people are like, you ever want to run for Congress? I'm like, shit, no. Ugh.
You'd have
That's
to,
why, like, I'm so
where would-
surprised, like guys like JD Vance, who are just like, he does not seem the type, at least from a public side.
Yes, he does.
Does he?
Bro, he held a fucking AR with no fucking sights on it.
There's a lot of guys.
He's really good with
that-
iron
that-
sights, bro.
I
There's
don't
a-
even think he had fucking irons on it. The picture I saw
Oh
was
no,
just
optic. Because like, there's a lot of dudes that'll shoot ARs and they don't have backup sights anymore.
You
Like,
gotta
there's a-
have something.
No, there's a ton of guys that don't put backup sights on their guns
okay,
anymore.
but do they have red dots?
Yeah,
Or-
well, that's what I
There's
mean.
a gun
he
right
had-
there that doesn't have
There
backup,
are backup
sights.
sights on this guy?
No, but he had
Not at all.
he had nothing, and I'll find it and send it to you. It's him sitting with an AR, with the rails are bare, bro.
Oh,
Not
really?
a light, not a thing inside, and it's like you're a fucking. Immediately, right away, I was like, "Fucking poser."
Yeah, there's something to be. Reflex shooting, man.
Yeah, totally. Point shoot.
Can I just hold this gun for the rest?
Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
I feel like we should have been holding these guns.
I don't know if you've noticed, but this is my fidget spinner. Like I'm over here just like.
We told him he couldn't rack it anymore because there's just like clicks on the.
That's why my friends don't play video games with me. A
So
lot.
I think there's two
Yeah.
things that you guys would totally get along with. So Ryan,
put
you
it
know,
in.
he's in
Yeah, for sure.
jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah,
I
I
mean,
saw that's a dope picture.
so-
Yeah, I don't do jujitsu anymore. I'm fat and old and it hurts. And I was tired
I'm-
of my fucking knuckles.
I'm
hurting.
old and it hurts also. But
like, "Yeah, I'm
I think I'm
skinny."
going tonight also. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, where do you train? 208?
208 Jiu-Jitsu in
Nice,
Nampa.
nice.
They're actually ranked like one of the top 20 schools in the world.
Yeah, we actually when I first moved out here, the big thing because when I moved out here, I was in significantly better shape. I was looking for good Muay Thai, and I found out that the base in Boise was the only place. So I read about them and heard that their whole contract situation, they'll just fucking lock you in. And I'm like, dude, that's in fucking Boise. That's that's a 20-minute drive.
There's
Like,
like
I'm-
that-
fuck all that.
Was it SBG? that's
yeah,
down
yeah.
there?
Sorry, that's what I
Yeah.
said. What did I call it?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
base?
No, not the base. The base is jiu-jitsu. They're great.
You called
SPG.
SPG is
Yeah,
what I
they
was
make you
talking
sign
about.
like 6 months.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, I ain't got time for a contract. If I can't be here, I'm not paying you. If I'm going to be here, I'll fucking pay you.
Yeah.
And that was like my immediate exit out of all combat.
Yeah.
But Marin boxing right here is awesome, and I do love going there.
I've jiu-jitsu. I signed up. So I'm 45 years old. I think I started. I started. I think when I was 38.
You're a purple belt, right?
Yeah, purple belt. Oh,
nice.
And the last two, basically, when I got into the elected office, it's just like I got my purple belt, then I've kind of dipped for
Yeah.
2 years ish. So I'm just the past few weeks I've been going back.
Yeah.
Is it just so that when you're on the floor, you can be like, hey, you want to fight?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, man, once you get to a purple belt, though, that's no easy. Like, it's
hard.
You get a blue belt, I think, if you just keep showing up. Like, okay, give him his blue belt. He's been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
He's not going away.
Is that the second belt?
Yeah, it
So
goes
yeah, it's
white,
blue,
purple.
purple, brown, black.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Pur-
black belt's like good luck.
Purple belt. They're called in jiu-jitsu. It's called like professor. Like,
Yeah, you could teach.
yeah, it's all academic. So it's like the academy professor. So if you go to a jiu-jitsu school, you're supposed. If someone has a black belt, you're supposed to call them professor. Where so the couple who owns 208 Jiu-Jitsu, it's a married couple. They could give a shit less if you call them professor. They're super cool.
Is it gi, no gi? What's the?
They do both. Yeah, gi and no gi. But purple belt, my professor says, and there's different. He says, I think purple belt is the first. He says it's a professional level belt.
Yeah.
White belt,
Yeah.
obviously you just get a white belt just for signing up. Blue belt, it's like, okay, you know some stuff. Purple belt, it's like you've committed to that. So I pretty much got my purple belt and like dipped for 2 years.
You're like, fuck yeah, boom.
No, but I have some.
Professor.
Yeah.
Professor, fuck you, I'm out.
Well, they call
I'm
it.
going to change the title of the podcast.
they call
now.
it the,
Professor Lenney.
You probably know this. They call it the blue flu.
Yep, everyone gets blue belt.
Yeah,
But,
you
dude,
get your
I
blue
did
belt
that.
and you're like, fuck this, I'm out.
My very first jiu-jitsu school, I got to blue belt, and in order to get to blue belt, they were pretty much just like, dude, you're fucking good. You just need to compete.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really want to compete.
I have
And they're
zero
like,
desire to compete.
Oh, dude, it's so fucking fun.
No.
It's so fun.
I think I've
when
done
you
8 or
feel-
10 tournaments in the last few
dude.
years.
And
Got
when
my
it's so
yeah.
different than marathon rolls because you'll have a dude in your camp like, oh, you're training. Okay, cool. You're on the team. Cool. Let's do this. And they'll roll with you pretty fucking hard. It is completely different when you slap bump and they are trying to win a tournament.
They're trying to murder you.
Boy,
Yeah.
dude, do they grab it?
I would want to
way
roll with
tighter.
other like old guys that don't want to get hurt.
You know what's funny? When you do tournaments, though, I've done several, and I don't do them anymore because I'm like, dude, some guy did like a full send wrist lock on me, and I still can't straighten my wrist. I have
dude,
3
so
bulging
quick.
discs and 3 bulging discs in my back. I'm like, this is not an old man's. This is a young man's game. I don't even. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But it's dude. It's so as you know, it's so fun when you go.
It is.
If they could put on a geriatric jits course, I'd sign up for that.
Or like fat jitsu. Just like
jitsu.
I don't want to do. See, like I was a jiu-jitsu guy, even as a blue belt. I would skip warm-ups. I'd show up and be like, "Sorry, I'm late, guys." Oh. And I just walk on the mat.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Dude, come on, show up for warm-ups." And I'm like, "I'm 6'1", 240. I am not trying to do fucking front rolls and shrimp across a mat. I want to choke people.
Yeah.
Let's go."
So what we do for warm-ups is, so I was at a school in Boise, and then the 208 opened up. It's I think half a mile from my house.
Is that a check mat or?
208 Jiu-Jitsu is.
Is that where we did the fundraiser for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
That cool. That place
They're
cool.
they're part of what's it called? True Jitsu. It's like this little known out of California, but I could do the whole.
Lineage or
No one's
whatever.
gonna give a shit.
It all
anyway.
comes back to a Gracie
Yeah, but
anyways.
they've been open 5 years and they're ranked one of the top 10 or top 20 for sure, but I think it might be one of the top 10 schools in the world.
That's awesome.
And it's like family. It's not a bunch of meathead assholes. There's
That's
like
cool.
It's like my kids go there, my wife trains there.
That's
There's
dope.
families there. There's like moms will be training on the mat and their babies in the playpen. So it's like super. And the couple who owns it, they have kids and stuff too. They're pretty cool. So it's not like
You don't
some
have to- you don't
meathead
have to
gym.
mortgage
Yeah.
your house to be able to go.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds more like community. Like I've
Yeah.
been part of gyms that are like one of the first gyms I was at was AK San Jose, which was all the fucking MMA guys were there, and it was just rooms. It was rooms of savages that
You're
wanted
just
to
like,
kill you.
which room do I want to get my ass kicked in?
Yeah, it was nothing was fun about that.
Yeah.
So then I left there. I went to Kyle Terra's gym and was with Kyle Terra Academy for years, and left there because I was tired of driving to downtown San Jose from where I lived. And then I switched to Knox Gym, which was Josh Thompson's gym, ex-UFC fighter. And dude, it was like home right away. I knew as soon as I went in there for the first time, I was like, this is my home. Like you feel it.
Yeah, it's a
important.
cool little group to be a part of.
That's
and
awesome.
Like I said, I'm just the last few weeks I'm like, hey man, I
Get back into it.
got some back issues on, but everyone has something going on. So I'm just going in and being kind of, how it is, like being choosy of like, hey, do you want to roll? I'm like, you're 28, 6'4", and 280 pounds of muscle. I'm like, not really. I'm gonna skip you for a while and go. Like
I skip the white belts. That's what I always do.
Dude, the white belts,
because they're so scary. You never know
especially when it's a white belt who's like hey, I just signed up and I'm like a ex-football player and I
wrestled collegiately.
I'm
a white belt. And
I'm
good.
NCAA wrestler and I do CrossFit.
Thanks.
You're like,
Yeah.
I know more jujitsu than you, but but here's as you know too, when you do jujitsu and once you start putting things together, you can roll with someone who's like twice your size and half your age and still destroy them. There was this guy I rolled with one time. I remember it vividly. It was like 2 years ago, and it's when I just got my purple belt, like brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was like, Captain, you know those guys who are so jacked where their forearms are even muscular? Where you're like, how do you even get muscles there?
What is that?
Yeah, like your forearms are more jacked than my whole.
Jerked off a lot, really.
Why is the left one more muscular than the right one? But this guy was just like a specimen, just like peak shape, like 28 years
Cut out of
old,
granite,
CrossFit, just not jacked in a like, but jacked into like, this guy's gonna destroy me.
Yeah.
He was a blue belt and I was a purple belt. He was literally bigger than me, way stronger than me, probably like 10, 15 years younger than me. And I just submitted him over and over and over. And every time I did, I'm like, oh man. As a brand new purple belt, I was like, oh, jiu-jitsu works, because anyone who lines me up next to this guy and said who's going to win in the fight, no one's pointing to me.
No, and you don't even have cauliflower ears. So
No.
they'd be like unsuspecting.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu's fun because it works, and it works with like, a lot of people. The analogy everyone always makes, it's like you're playing chess, not checkers.
Yep.
So wrestling is like checkers. Who can you're just wrestling, and whoever's the strongest, baddest. Where jiu-jitsu, it's like you don't have to be the strongest, baddest ass guy on the mat. So that's why like nerdy people, like intellectual nerdy people, do really well at jiu-jitsu.
Nerd ninjas is a real thing.
There's a meme of what people think is scary, and it's this like hulked out fucking bodybuilder, and then it's like what normal like jiu-jitsu people think is scary, and it's I can't even remember. I think it's Gordon Ryan's younger brother, 10th Planet Dork. He's got his glasses on, and he has his iPad, and he's just like, and you're like, dude, this dude's like a multi-time world champion.
It's true.
Straight murderer. But he just looks like he wants to go play.
But then you see guys like Gordon Ryan, and he's also just a physical.
He's in his own.
specimen.
So
he doesn't count.
He doesn't count. All of this though, not to then. But then the other. This is not what I'm saying, and I don't think you guys think I'm saying this. But there's those people like strength doesn't matter, size. No, I'm like, no, that shit matters.
It all matters.
But if you have like Gordon Ryan is in his own.
Yeah, he's
like
all
his.
of it.
He's in his own category of
strength, size,
whatever.
and skill.
But I mean, I think though, in my experience. So I've been, I should say, I signed up 7 years ago. Probably about a solid 4 years of the past 7, I've been actively going, and then it's on and off, whatever. But I would say, generally speaking, skill trumps strength. But if you have a guy who's jacked and a specimen with the skill, like Gordon Ryan, you're like, I'm not even gonna roll with this guy. I'm gonna get murdered.
Well, you start getting to like, especially if you like train at places where they have legit like MMA fighters and teams. Those dudes. They're like walking around with their fucking like high water gis and shit. They're fucking jacked and they have their brown belt on. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll roll. And I mean, for me and my business partner, Nick, I don't know if you saw him when you walked in or not, but he has an unpassable guard. Unpassable. You can just keep his hips in the air. It's really hard to get by him and stuff. And so I would resort to what any 6 foot tall, 250 pound guy would do.
Muscle your way.
Smash pass. I'll fucking fold you in half until you're gurgling, and then I'll fucking take side control.
Yeah.
And dude, there were many times. She's a black belt now, Christina Brulon. She's like a world class female jiu-jitsu girl. She was a purple belt at the time, and I was a blue belt. And dude, I remember thinking like, as we were just going through our roles and stuff, she just literally stepped in front of me, and I was just like, I'm going to fucking murder this chick mercilessly. Like, I'm going to tap her out and let her move on really fast. And she proceeded to basically make me tap out from Neon Belly.
Neon Belly? Wow.
Dude, it was the weight of 1,000 fucking men. I couldn't understand how she had so much good weight distribution for it. She was like on top of me. She had both my like lapels, and she put her knee, and I was just like, oh my, like I could, every time I breathe out a little bit, it just sunk more.
Yeah, you never
and
got it back.
I couldn't get it back. And then she just took me for everything I was worth multiple times. For the whole time I was at Calterra, every time I rolled with her, I don't think I ever tapped her out once. And she's tiny. She's fucking small. She was just really good. And every single position I put her in, she was patient, calm, and she was looking for something.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just spazzing out and trying to fucking choke.
And your strength and size didn't really matter.
No,
first time the first time, like literally the first time I showed up at this gym in Boise, I want to try jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah.
I rolled with this at the time. The chick was 25, purple belt, 25-year-old purple belt. So I was like, what, 38? So I'm like, 20. What's this girl gonna do?
Yeah.
I think she tapped me out like 12 times in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's humbling.
Just
dude.
you're just like tap, choke, armbar, like just.
Beautiful.
And I was
Yeah.
like, holy crap.
When it happens,
I need to
you
learn
don't
how to
even know
do
what
that.
happened. You're like, I don't even know where I fucked up.
I don't even know what to do.
How did she get my knee? Like,
Yeah.
how did she get my arm? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, wrist locks are brutal, though.
And I think, and I
brutal.
think to that, something I think when you watch, you see those videos on social media where it's like a cop getting their ass kicked or something. I'm like, dude,
Just
every
a little bit of jujitsu.
every cop, I think,
Mandatory.
should be forced to get at least a blue belt.
At least.
Like police station pays for it. Like if every cop was trained to a blue belt level, you'd be seeing a lot less of those videos. And I know a lot of I train with a lot of cops
are
train
really
in
into it.
train
Yeah.
jujitsu, but it should be mandatory, man. If I was,
should.
It's really started to catch
I was a
on
police chief
law
or
enforcement.
something, I don't know if they have the authority to do that.
They do.
A lot
yeah,
of
they
agencies
absolutely
in
do.
California get paid for fit 1 hour a day. They should get in there and start rolling
A
around.
lot of them do. Like, I know San Jose PD has jiu-jitsu dudes come in and teach and train their guys.
I would imagine a lot of those big departments, they've got black belts that can, that
for
can
sure.
be teaching.
For
There's
sure.
some cops in Nampa who train at 208, and some of them are just a couple guys I'm thinking of are gigantic. They look like Captain America, these big dudes, and they're good at jiu-jitsu. I'm like,
Yeah, but that's awesome. I mean, that's the kind of resource you
that's
want.
the kind of
Like,
cop. That's the kind of cop you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it would generate a whole hell of a lot less shootings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the Gracies break down cops getting fucked up. and
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I
Those
mean,
videos are
when
great.
they're close. I mean, at a certain point, if a guy pulls a gun and you've got some distance, I'm going to my gun. I'm not trying to close
no,
the gap.
yeah, no.
You can't jiu-jitsu this thing.
Well, you can if you're close.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can try.
I mean,
and
that's
go
my
choke
point.
that
Is
thing.
if you don't have distance, distance is your friend. But if you're up close and you try to, like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we're gonna.
That's
go
the one
to
thing I'll
hands.
give the Gracies. Their distance management game is really good.
Yeah.
Like, so I come from all the gyms I've been to are checkmat. I've never been a Gracie guy, and completely different philosophies. And the Gracie dudes are good at distance management. They're
Yeah.
hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
Quick to shoot in, hard to get a hold of. So
Yeah.
it's fun, man. Jiu-jitsu's dope.
yeah, it's cool.
love
It's
it.
cool. It's a cool thing.
I don't
Good
want to
stress
do
reliever
it.
too.
Yeah, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I'm trying to get my sons into it,
Dude, honestly,
which is why I want to learn so that I can do it alongside them.
dude, Team
I started
Rhino,
with my kids. That's
so
the best way
good.
to do it. Sign them up.
Yep.
You know the best
Yeah.
way to learn is which even as a white belt and a blue belt, I did almost every week is helping teach kids class.
Yeah,
Because the stuff you're teaching like little kids, it's such a slow. You're teaching them, and then you're internal like.
Yeah, you're internalizing
Oh, yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I mean, like some of the stuff, it's like, where'd you learn that? I'm like, kids class. They're like, what? I'm like, help teach. But you're showing the kids, you're like, no, put your arm here and do this,
Yeah.
and then you can't not learn it.
Yeah.
right.
So the best way for anyone who's like, I want to do jujitsu, but I don't know. If you have younger kids, sign the kids up. Ask the professor, hey, can I help? I know I don't know shit, but I can like make kids sit in a line and tell Billy to shut up.
Yeah.
Can I just help with kids class? That's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's
and usually
that's
they'll
how you
never get a
learn.
no from that.
Oh,
Like,
they'll never.
Most people are like, oh, fuck yeah, please. By
Yeah.
all means, come get these kids in a line
The
for
kids
me.
class
Yeah.
at 208, it's
Yeah.
like wild. There's
Herding
hundreds
cats.
of kids.
Oh,
You're just-
really?
Yeah.
So my kid goes to,
All right, I need to
Team
look into it
Rhino
because I've been looking.
right here with Keith Owen.
It's a big
Yeah.
facility too.
Is it?
And Keith
208?
Owen's like the
Big
real
open
deal.
room.
The one thing I have about that gym that makes me suspect about it is I look at all the coaches and you got like 4 black belts with like 0 facial damage, 0 cauliflower ears. Their hands look normal. And I'm like, you made it to black belt and you have no scars on your eyebrows. You've never had a broken nose and your hands look okay.
I don't have eyebrows, so that's a good for me.
Yeah, but I mean, when you get to the point where you're rolling a lot, like you're gonna knock heads, you're gonna hurt your hands and shit.
My
and it's-
professor, it's a husband and a wife, so I guess, but the couple who owns it, this is funny. We were at the cigar lounge the other day in Nampa, and when he walks in, the husband of the husband and wife too, he walks into a room, you just look at him, you're like, yeah, I don't fuck with that guy.
No, you don't.
Just
You
the
know
look
right
on
away.
it, and my buddy, you guys know him, but one of my buddies there, he goes, yeah, you're a shoot not fight. He goes,
Yeah.
what? He goes, yeah, I would never try to fight you. You're just a shoot not fight. And so we were making jokes about it, but you can just look at certain guys, you're like, yeah, that guy knows something.
Yeah, and the ability also to.
You can tell how people move their body, like just body awareness. You know, you start to see a lot of these kids now, especially. I mean, man, dude, my wife and I feel kind of bad saying it, but you know, we're starting to get our kids enrolled in sports, and dude, there are some fat kids out there.
Yeah.
And it is wild how many of these kids who are just chunkers do not know how to move their body.
They never
And it's
had
just
to,
because they
yeah.
were never forced out of their house. They were never forced to run. They didn't climb trees. They
We got
didn't-
screens now.
Yeah, you know, and it's
seed
wild.
oils.
Like their
GMOs.
Yeah, but their coordination is just non-existent. It's wild.
Then you have my kid who's like in both my kids impeccable shape.
Right.
Extremely uncoordinated.
Both of my kids are like, you know, 6-packs. They've like
Yeah, they're
well-defined
fit.
muscles. I'm looking at my kids. I'm like, damn, I'm jealous of their physique.
Well, no, that just means like you're doing right by them. Like my kids all have to be active. They have to play sports. They have to be in swim. They have to be in jiu-jitsu. They have to be doing things. And it's not because I'm so excited to drive around after I work here for 10 hours.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm like, dude, I cannot let them sit behind it. Because if you fucking let them, they will.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
will not even question it.
Oh,
if I
dude.
gave my kid the iPad and said I'll be back in 5 hours, he would be like,
Later.
fuck yeah, dude,
Yeah.
take off.
There's a reason, like Steve Jobs never gave his kid an iPad, they said. And
Yeah.
it's like Steve Jobs' kids didn't even have a tablet or anything.
No.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's because he knows
What-
that blue light, dude.
I heard you mentioning like seed oils and GMOs. Like, what's your take on Bobby Kennedy? I know that there's like, you know, policy stuff that when he was running as a president, I was questionable on, but I'm pretty excited about the
should
whole
say,
prospect of making America healthy.
so the health freedom stuff is pretty huge for me. That's
Yeah.
pretty much why I ran. Like, but mostly like the mask mandates, vaccine mandates, those types of things. So, you know, there's been, I think, wasn't there talk about he was saying he was going to make like big pharma commercials illegal, stuff like that. So
he's got a lot of big aspirations.
take-
He's gonna get killed.
my take on him,
They'll be 3 for 3.
my take on him is I really like his views on big pharma and those types of things,
Yeah.
and that's about. Like, I think he has atrocious views on like abortion. for
2A and
example.
abortion are my biggest things with
Yeah,
him.
and
climate.
and like a lot of his views, like he said, you should be able to abort a baby up to the moment of like
Yeah.
the head's about
No,
to
I
pop out. You should, and I'm like, that's just.
No, that's completely.
But I mean, as far
That's
as
wild.
if
we
he
have-
stays in that lane, that health kind of whatever lane you want to call that, I'm like, yeah, give him the
Which is, I
reins.
think all he's really gonna have the ability to do.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm again, it's like if they did they Trump and all these, they've made so many promises. I'm like, are they going to what do you call it? Not destroy, dismantle, abolish the Department of Education.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
I mean, I'm all for it as a guy who's on the Senate Education Committee, because I mean, there was a bill a few years ago in Idaho to say let's take all federal money out. This is what I was talking about with a federal sovereign state. Let's let Idaho depend on Idaho and say no feds, like. But there was a bill that said let's take all federal money out of education. I'm like, why don't we just take the feds out of education? Like, take them out, take them out,
Let's take their opinion.
take them out like Obama's chef. You know,
Whoops.
who drowned. He wasn't taken out. He drowned.
Yeah.
Is what they say.
Yeah, so was Epstein.
He drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Epstein was definitely suicidal.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Kennedy, like I'm like cautiously optimistic
Yeah.
because some of the
would
people
agree.
he's putting into, it's like you're going to get rid of the DOE. The Republicans said they would do that. I think it was like the early 90s when they had the contract with America. They're like, here's all the shit we're going to do, and they barely did any of it. But one of them was abolish the DOE. So
The DOE would be very interesting to see how that would play out. I think it would be fantastic. I would love to see them be able to get rid of a lot of these preservatives, food dyes, a lot of these things that I'm by no means an advocate for becoming a European-esque country.
The European
But-
Union.
But a lot of the things that they have made illegal to put in food makes a ton of
Well, I
sense.
have a friend that moved to Portugal, dude, and one of the
Well, and
things
the
she said was,
why do you think our kids are so fat? They're eating all
but
this
the other-
shit.
and not being able to sell whole unpasteurized milk. You know, people attacking people who raise eggs in their backyard. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of regulation that they're trying to put on to force you to buy system food.
If you could pick, I don't even have an answer, but if gun to your head, you have to pick one 3-letter agency that's just gone, what would it be?
Ooh.
That's
GOV.
That is, I'm taking that answer.
Fucking burn it to the ground, baby. The one thing to go away,
yeah. If you just like
gun to my head,
gun to your head, you have to just name the 3-letter
IRS.
agency.
I think IRS too.
I was gonna say that
IRS.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that's my pocketbook.
And,
then,
and Brandon Herrera for ATF.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know actually how I feel about that.
No?
No, I think that like
I think it'd be kind of funny.
I mean, he's just a fucking Black Rifle Coffee, dude.
Yeah. I think it'd be funny.
He's a veteran, right?
He almost won his run.
He was damn close to winning that Congress seat
Yeah.
in
He was.
Texas, right?
Yeah.
And that was like
But-
a major underdog story.
My
Major
thoughts are
underdog
just
story.
okay. Are we going to really let influencers also start? I mean, we already have.
Well,
Trump.
look, I mean, here the reality is there are a few of them that are serious, and the ones that are, they've spent their time building a platform. I'm perfectly content with if you have the ability to build a platform and you're a serious individual that's actually going to take the job seriously, leverage your platform into votes. I'm cool with that.
yeah. But at what point are you purchasable at that point? Because the whole reason of leveraging a
don't-
platform is making money.
Yeah, but
You're
I
not
mean, at a
building a
certain
platform
point,
to
I mean,
become a politician.
I think at a certain point, if you're ethically capable of sustaining the
price?
pressure, yeah,
Pretty cheap.
pretty cheap.
$50. I'll pass whatever.
One of my, I can't wait to see what they do with all these federal agencies, and they start.
Doge.
Yeah, I mean, for one, today before I left for work, I was watching the news, and they were saying that there's like $1 billion just in one agency alone of unoccupied buildings,
Yeah.
right? That we're paying $1 billion
Yeah,
plus
just
a
have 'em
year
sitting.
just to have them sit.
How do we get in on that grift? I'll be the guy who manages the building, so you can just
Right?
pay me a couple million a year.
Yeah, I want a
And so they
percentage.
say these civil employees are going to be hard to fire, but what they're going to do is they're going to move the agencies to a different state, and they'll have to just either move or they'll quit, and it'll take care of itself.
Whatever happened to, I think just fucking, God, never mind.
I really want to hear it now.
Nah, just
Yeah.
fucking kill
No, government's
kill
too
'em
big.
all.
It really
No.
is.
Yeah.
Just
You know,
fuck
we've
'em
talked
all.
about it many times on this podcast. There's a lot of wasteful spending, and
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of people. I mean, we're business owners. You're a business owner.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that could be ran a lot better in the private sector than having the government ever do anything.
Especially my business. I fucked
But I
up
sure like
bad the
that
other
government
day.
cheese. I mean, look at that shit, dude. It's
Yeah.
just so wasteful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
There's gosh, what was I gonna say? I just had a brain fart.
Oh, well, I'll fill in. Think about it.
Fill in, yeah.
Before I forget, if you dislike what Senator Jim Guthrie said, his email is jguthrie@senate.idaho.gov. And you can email him and tell him to fuck off.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So there's that.
He
I hung on to that one for a minute.
he called me. Yeah, you did hang on to that one. There was a group of people last year, 2023,
Yeah.
put out a press release calling me a California transplant, and he was one of them. And we're like, here's
It's some kind of
We're all fucking Americans.
bro,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's
We're
crazy.
patriotic.
They want to. I love getting in arguments with people. These Idahoans online about the Californians. They did this, they did that, and I said, stop selling us your fucking land. Like my development where I'm at, Idahoans, they sold that whole development.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
kids sold it. The dad-
exactly. Yeah,
They're because now they're sitting on a fortune.
Yeah.
There's
Obviously,
this
you're
The land
weird.
that was never really worth generational
Stop
wealth
selling us your
is
land
now
and your
is-
houses.
is
and
now every
everything.
kid has generational wealth.
Yeah, it's weird, but they called me a So we had this bill. So if we have time or someone remembers or we get it into a lull, which I don't think we will. The two biggest issues I think in Idaho, in America, but also in Idaho, and we have plans to tackle some things in each of these are the first one's illegal immigration. The second one is more of an umbrella thing, like these culture wars, like DEI and getting the woke shit out of schools.
Yeah.
Those are two.
That's my
Those
big
are
one.
two of kind of at the top of the list.
The trans bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and we're dealing with that in so many levels. But we had this immigration bill last year, where it was basically calling for it was a when they write those letters, it's called a memorial. So it's like we the 67th Idaho legislature, blah blah blah, do thereby request that we
memorandum,
it doesn't do anything, but it does, but it doesn't. But it kind of opens the door, yeah. So we had this strongly written letter that would have gone to our congressman and President Brandon that basically said, "Hey, we want amnesty." So I got up and I'm like, "Fuck no, we're not doing amnesty." And we're not. It passed the Senate floor, didn't pass the House, but in the midst of that,
amnesty for
illegal aliens.
Okay.
So that was a very rigorous debate on the Senate floor, and then it went over to the House, and they just killed it.
Yeah.
A chairman just said, "We're not going to hear this."
That had to be contested highly.
Oh, it was. I got they put out a press release. This group who was pushing it, so I got ahead of it a little bit, and I had the press release on the Senate floor, and with Senator Jim Guthrie, I said, "Hey, question." Like in the debate, I'm like, "Question. I have this press release. They actually handed it out at our desk, calling me They didn't say my name, but everyone knows they were talking about me." And I said, "Who's this?" It says there's a California transplant in the Idaho Senate who's trying to change the Who are you referring to? He goes, "Oh, I just."
What a pussy.
And then
What a coward, dude.
And then I asked him,
Guthrie.
and then I asked him again, and I said, "Well, no." He goes, "Oh, I'm talking about anyone who wants to come here and change our way of life." I said, "I get that, but this thing that we were just handed out on the Senate floor says a California transplant in the Idaho Senate. So you're talking about one person. Who is that person? You're knowing it's me. He knew that everyone knows it's me. I'm just like, so we got into it afterwards a little bit after that, like off
face
off
to face?
camera. I'm like, "Hey man, like if you're gonna, we got into it a little bit, but here's the interesting thing that people would be surprised probably to hear me say. The interesting thing in the, I always hear, "Hey, you've been in the Senate for almost 2 years. What have you learned, or what's different? Like what is your big takeaway?" You are forced to get along with people who you disagree with strongly because you have to.
Yeah.
You sit next to them on committees. Like imagine if I came in here and sat next to you every day we have to get along. So even like very liberal Republicans, I'm just talking at like "Hey, how's it going? How are the kids? Hey, nice weather." Just even at just a basic level.
Like pleasantries.
Yeah, like I get along with everyone pretty well. People are kind of shocked about it because I like you and probably all of
They
us.
think you're going to be an
rabble-rouser.
asshole, and they're like, "Oh, he's actually pretty nice."
Yeah,
Huh.
I get along with the Democrats just fine.
Yeah.
There's been times where so in the Senate there's only 7. Well, now there's only going to be 6 Democrats. So there's 35 senators. We went from 7 to 6. We'd be going to our Republican caucus meeting. Like, "Hey, we're going to break and go up," and that's where the leadership tries to browbeat you, or we would just like discuss issues where we don't want the Democrats to hear, whatever. But even in the Republican caucus meeting, it's pretty divided, like very conservative people and kind of moderates. But there were several times on our way up to these meetings, I'm like, gosh, I would just go over to the Democrats, and there's only 7 of them, so they just sit there and hang out, and they have a good time. I'd say, "Hey,
Yeah, because they know they're not really going to be able to do anything effective.
But I'm like, "Hey, can I just hang out with you guys? I don't want to go to this damn meeting." I'm like, "Can I just be a part of your? Do you guys allow really conservative people in your caucus?" And they would be like, "Yeah." One of them told me, "Yeah, we don't talk shit about each other. We don't fight. We're generally on the same page. We vote the same way. You guys are like you said, this divide, and it is a real divide. We kind of have 3 parties and again, I don't think it's exclusive to Idaho. Not 3 parties, 3 factions. You have conservatives, moderates, and Democrats.
Yeah.
But that's you're forced to get along with these people, and they're forced to get along with me to their dismay. So it is interesting. It's been like, I'm not naturally the type to be like, "I'm going to go hang out with people I strongly disagree with," but you have to in the legislature.
See, that's my entire career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I sit on an ambulance. I'm a paramedic by trade, and I sit on an ambulance. And honestly, I actually really cherish that time because, I spend the vast majority of my life with other people. And I've had partners that have been conservative. I've had partners that are hyper liberal. And I'm forced to get into these scenarios where, one, I have to articulate my thoughts well and in a way that can be received if I have any desire to have a productive conversation. But then the other side of it is I'm also forced to listen to perspectives that I may not otherwise entertain. And I think that has only been beneficial for me.
Yeah.
You're
forced to there's issues when you're in the legislature. Everyone
I'm thinking about if Rob had to do that. Like long term. So anyways, here's this dick painting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Have you heard of Picasso.
The old Picasso. I've heard of it. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because you hear viewpoints and arguments and like, oh, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still pretty. I think just if you look at all these like legislative watchdog groups where they have like scorecards, and I still think I'm one of the most. Not that I need a scorecard to tell me this, but I think voting record wise, I still think I'm one of the most conservative people in the building. Not like some douchey like I'm one of the most. I just am.
Yeah.
It's just like
That'd be
like
by nature.
Yeah.
that'd be like you saying I'm the business owner. It's like, well, you are. It's not like an arrogant thing. I'm like and a lot of the people, the people in not a lot, members of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, are the most conservative legislators in the building. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we also don't get along with other people, and you have to work with everyone. Which people are like, Lenny said you have to work with everyone, but you have to if you want to get stuff done. You have. That doesn't mean you compromise on principles, but sometimes you keep your principles, but you're like, hey, I want to do it this way. They want to do it this way. Okay, well, if this way is the only way to get it done, if the principle is still there, I don't give a shit if we go this way or this way or this way.
Yeah.
You made mention of something. I'm just curious for context. You said sometimes you'll go to these caucus meetings or whatever, and the leadership will try to browbeat you into submission. What is, just out of curiosity, what does that look like? What's that dynamic? Because from my perspective, I think you're an elected legislator. Like, your responsibility is to your constituency, not to.
You are spot on. And so a lot of those look like, there's 4 leadership roles in the Senate. So there's like the pro tem, which is basically like the Speaker of the House, but the Senate version. So you have the Speaker of the House and the pro tem. They're like kind of the head honchos.
Okay.
And then there's 3 under those. So there's 4 and 4. So 2 of the 4 are not coming back. Their last week as a senator is this week, actually.
Oh, okay.
So by the time this thing gets produced or whatever, they're probably going to be gone. But Chuck Winder was the pro tem. And another senator in leadership, she was in Fruitland or something. She moved out of state. So we're going to have new leadership no matter, and I'm hoping we can get some conservative leadership in there. But no, I mean, they'll go in there like, hey, where's the caucus at on this? But I'm like, we're pretty much divided on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes, so the funny joke we always make is, what happens in caucus stays in caucus. I'm like, until we're done and every lobbyist knows everything that happened in here. For some people, like I would have lobbyists. I don't talk to most of them because I don't serve the lobbyist class or really talk. I literally don't talk to most of them. There's a handful, and the feeling's probably mutual, which is by design from my point of view. But I was coming down the stairs one time. We have our caucus meeting. Okay, cool. Let's go to lunch, whatever. And that's just the Republicans, closed door meeting, and lobbyists are like, oh, I heard X, Y, and Z happen. I'm like, so, people leak stuff or call people or text people. I don't know. But it got pretty heated in there several times where it was like yelling, screaming. That
would be so entertaining.
At the end, at the end of this 2024 session, he got unelected. Chuck Winder lost his election. He, I think, overstepped his bounds in the way he treated myself and 2 other senators. Like, removed us from committee spots because I called Joe Biden a retard on Twitter,
Which he is.
And Chuck Winder said, oh, he said the R word, and that's not
The
conduct
R-word,
becoming of a
golly,
senator.
that's so funny.
I mean, so
Retard.
yeah. So like Chuck lost. I think a big reason why Chuck Winder lost, he was always nice to me, to my face and everything, but I think a big reason why he lost is because he like started trying to police what we were doing off the Senate floor. It's like, I don't like what you posted on Twitter. I'm like, you're not my dad.
Really care.
Yeah.
Nor are you my boss.
And I
Guess
told
what?
him, I put out a press release when he kicked us off our committees, took me out of the vice chairmanship, and
he has the authority to do that, huh?
he does. But the reason he did it for. I said, dude, you don't get to police what I do on Twitter or in my real life or what I say online. If you don't like it, okay.
Could
your
you file an
prerogative.
ethics complaint against him for that, or?
You could, yeah. There may or may not have been one filed. I forgot.
So interesting.
Yeah, but I
All of
mean,
it.
but it's like the people. But you know who gets to decide? You know who gets to decide on the Senate side in Idaho? It's different in the House, and the House in Idaho has a standing ethics committee. The Senate, it's ad hoc. So if someone files an ethics complaint in the Senate, the pro tem gets to decide if it's worth pursuing or not. So what happens when you file an ethics complaint against the pro tem? You know, So it's like
Swept under the rug.
I think they hand it off to the second guy, and then but it's like kind of like you're not going to like Joe Biden's not going to put himself in prison. You know,
Does the lieutenant governor have authority in the Senate like the vice president does in the U.S. Senate?
It's kind of the same role. So the lieutenant governor presides over the Senate, like the parliamentary, like Senator so and so, you may speak. Yeah, like they run the Senate, and that's similar. I'm like the vice president of the United States runs
the U.S. Senate.
I forgot if it's the Senate or the House. The Senate. Yeah, it's not the House. Speaker of the House. So it's kind of the same type of stuff. But then after that, it's like, well, vice president does really nothing, jack shit. So lieutenant governor here during session is very busy. I'm not sure what he does. He or she, currently it's a he. I'm not sure what they do, besides like going to events and speaking and just like ceremonial.
Very ceremonial.
But there's not a lot of power there. There's a lot more political power, in my opinion, in the Speaker of the House. I think the governor obviously has the top of the food chain, but the Speaker of the House has a lot of power, I think, in legislatures like ours. So,
can we talk about the groomer squad down there at the in the Nampa?
Oh man, do we have time? We do have time. Yes. I don't have anywhere to be.
Well, so if anybody's seen,
I cleared my afternoon. We're at about an hour 15 right now. So
So if anybody follows Lenney online, I got you guys kind of clued in
on X. Yeah.
On X, yeah.
Because your X profile is public, but your other social media is not, I think.
Well, right? I deleted Facebook several weeks ago for obvious reasons. I'm like, I'm so sick of this shit. I don't even, it gets no reach. It gets no engagement. I don't even want Facebook. I deleted it a while ago. And Instagram is, I keep it very limited just so it's like, where else are you going to look up funny fishing memes and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Instagram, I hardly even log on there, to be honest. But I just have X now is the one I actively use. But sorry.
No. So anybody that's following you on X, I mean, obviously you could see the back and forth that is happening right now with the groomers, and that's kind of a hot button for a lot of people.
Well, there was a group. I briefly skimmed it. There was a group that was meeting at a public library, but like during an open meeting time. Is that what I understood?
Basically, what happened is, so contrary to, and this is just something that's the last couple days from as we are sitting here filming this, I didn't like break this. Like other people were posting about it long before I was and making a big deal about it. I was like, oh, wow, that's not cool. So there was a flyer put up at the Nampa Public Library on the bulletin board that's approved by the library according to their policy. That is a group that's, it's like a LGBT club not for kids, not for adults, for 14 to 20-year-olds. That was where I'm like, red flag.
Red flag.
If it was like, if it's just an adult group, like okay, you're all adults, you can do whatever the hell you want. But 14,
you gotta leave.
14 to 20-year-olds. So I got and they didn't meet at the library. The flyer was up at the library, and they meet at a church in Nampa, a Nazarene church, which is odd.
Yeah, that is.
So
odd.
I saw this, and
well,
I'm
actually,
like,
that's not all that odd. Nazarenes are
yeah,
weird.
Nazarenes.
I don't know the difference.
Yeah, it's a denomination.
Another podcast.
Yeah, but so I just emailed the city council, Nampa City Council, the mayor, the police chief, and my two. I said every district has 2 house reps, and those 2 guys who are conservative dudes too, and I just sent an email. And I said, hey, FYI, this is going on in our city. I didn't say let's shut them down. I didn't say, and I said, hey, looks like we got groomers on the prowl in Nampa, because when you look at the definition of grooming, just objective, what do people mean when they say that? First of all, there's several, as we've seen the last several years, especially several LGBT groups who just say, yeah, we're grooming children. We're coming for your kids.
Coming after your kids.
So that's what, and it's
they've
like
gotten real brazen.
Yeah. So one of the Nampa City Council women, councilwoman, Nampa City
council
councilwoman, council persons. So I sent it.
Council vase.
I sent it out, and this was the same woman who was really ardent in defending the Nampa Pride event that we had this year.
Ugh.
Nampa's never had a Pride event until 2024.
Trust me.
And the same councilwoman who went to the Pride event, she called it wholesome. She was on a podcast, like she said, it was kind of wholesome.
Oh, what was the
Child drag shows.
What was the podcast?
It was that ranch podcast thing. Have
Oh
you seen
yeah.
that?
I'm undecided about that one.
I can't decide either.
I haven't really watched. I watched a couple people on it, but I watched that whole episode, and it wasn't a child drag show; it was an adult drag show. But she went, so she was like, "Hey, they have a right to meet here, et cetera, et cetera." I'm like,
I saw a lot of children though in the pictures.
I'm not
at
saying
that
they don't have a right to
show.
meet here. I'm saying, as far as community stand, so I'm approaching it. I made the moral argument saying, "Is this what we want going on in our city?"
Right.
And then it turned into, she wrote this giant email, and then I wrote a giant email, and then we just back and forth. And she's saying, hey, constitutionally, they have a right to do it. How do you even know they're groomers? Da 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 da. By the way, have you volunteered at their group to see what's going on? Also,
No, that's a no.
Listen
Negative.
to this. And so we just went back and forth because I'm like, you're making a constitutional argument.
Right.
I'm making a moral argument. You're making these straw man arguments saying they have I'm like, I never said they don't have the right to assemble legally. I'm saying, is this the kind of thing we want going on in our city? Is this the library? Should they be approving these types of flyers? Because when you look at the definition of grooming, I read an article recently on Psychology Today. It's like you find a vulnerable group of children or insecure, whatever. In this case, sexually confused children. You befriend them. You invite them to a closed off private space with other adults. You earn their trust. And then bad stuff could happen. So I'm with this group. I didn't say they are doing bad stuff. I just said, hey, they're putting up flyers inviting children to meet with sexually confused children to meet with sexually confused adults.
To talk about sex.
And they said, well, how do you know they're talking about sex? I'm like, you're going to tell me if you put out. So my one of my kids is into Harry, not like nerdy way. One of my kids read all the Harry Potter books.
Harry
Dude,
Potter's
that's
fucking
yeah.
dope,
Harry
bro.
Potter's awesome.
So I mean, he's not
I
like
love Harry
going to like wearing the robes and stuff like going. But I'm like, you're gonna tell me if you put. So one of her arguments was, how do you know they're talking about sex? I'm like, the group is based on sexuality. If you put out a flyer at the library that said, hey, Harry Potter Club, 14 to 20-year-olds, only Harry Potter people. You're going to tell me all of the people who go to that group are not going to talk about Harry Potter?
Yeah,
What the fuck else would they talk
They're
about?
not talking about Star Trek.
So she said, well,
I
I
don't think
asked
they
them
are.
and they said they're not talking about sex. I'm like, and one of the emails in the back and forth, I said, and she says she's a conservative and all that. And I'm like, I think we mean different things here.
I think
Yeah,
you're
I don't think that
confused.
you know what conservative is.
And I said, I mean, it's almost like baffling to me that I even have to point these things out. So you go to, and again, I'm not saying this group, I'm saying this group could be or appears to be or might be grooming kids. I know on the first half, they're befriending them, inviting them to a church, a safe space. I'm not saying they're doing anything bad after that. I'm just saying, hey, let's be aware that this is going on. Crap, what was I saying? I was saying-
They were calling you out for the use of the term grooming.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it appears, but my whole point was like being when in the back and forth of this.
Of the moral
Oh
argument.
yeah, she said, have you volunteered with the group? And I'm like, why the hell would I volunteer at a gay group for 14 to 20-year-olds? I said, do you have to jump into a volcano to know it's hot? Do you have to touch a cactus to know it's sharp? Do I have to shoot myself in the leg to know it's gonna? You don't have to volunteer.
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with the foundation of the group. You're taking sexually confused, vulnerable, insecure children, and you're pairing them up with adults. And the
10
group
years
was
older.
formed by lesbians. And you're putting them all in the same room, and you're saying they're not going to talk about sex or nothing bad's going. Like, so I'm like, this is just not what we want. Well, they have I'm like, I'm not talking about the Constitution. I'm saying
As a community, do we want
is
to
this
endorse
what we want? You get what you
No.
tolerate.
Right.
We should tolerate less.
Yeah.
And
Tolerate way less.
and part of being a damn conservative is you're actually trying to conserve things like traditional family values, faith in God. There's Michael Savage nailed it, borders, language, and culture. Well, this is a cultural issue. because growing up, none of us had to deal with this shit where there was like the gay group and adults and kids, and we all meet. We're not talking about
Dude,
sex.
I didn't
though.
even know about being gay or gayness until fucking high school.
Yeah, gay was just something you called your friend who
yeah,
was being gay.
It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're being gay. It had nothing to do with sexual
and you're like,
anything.
no, we're not talking about homosexuals. We're talking about you're being gay.
Yeah, it's completely
Stop
different.
being gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took that fucking word.
Yeah,
from
when you
us.
told your buddy to go suck a dick, you didn't intend for him to
Yeah,
actually
I
go
was like,
suck
dude, I didn't mean for you to
If
actually
you suck
suck
one,
that
you
dick.
suck them all.
Yeah. Now you have AIDS. I will say the Idaho Statesman did a wonderful job painting a lovely picture.
Oh,
of
is that
you.
the one that says like the far right
Yeah.
senator? What's the headline?
It says LGBTQ youth groups Nampa. What? Yeah, sorry, the alphabet stuff fucking trips
Yeah.
you up. Youth groups Nampa library flyer irks far right legislator who helps stir up issues.
And all I did is email. So I emailed the city council and just said, hey,
Be aware.
you guys,
eyes on this.
mayor and city council, you gave us our first Pride event. I don't care how you.
Yeah.
Nampa's never had a Pride event. You guys rolled that out this year.
Yeah.
Now we got this group. Not that it's the library's. It's the library just has a bulletin board. Someone went and put it up. I initially actually emailed the library.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, did you? I'm like, I wasn't the one. Other people were posting about it and saying, call the library. You know, I didn't.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, did you know this? Like, was this at the library? And the librarian or woman who was, I don't know her title, whoever's responsible for it, emailed me back and she said, yes, that was a flyer here. Yes, it was ours. Here's our posting policy. It doesn't violate our posting policy, but one of their posting policy, like boom, 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 one of them said nothing that's inappropriate or there was another word.
Sexual.
It didn't say sexual, but it basically like, I'm like, so you don't think adults luring kids to a church, which is supposed to be a safe place, right? Hey, come to this church.
Safe place.
Not the Lutheran church. I'm
Nazarene
just
church.
kidding. Lutherans, I don't know.
Come to this
Yeah,
come to
Nazarenes.
this church and it's a LGBT. So they're not talking about sex. I'm sure they're not going in there and be like, "Hey, Billy, welcome." So, like I'm like I have a hard time believing, like I said, the put any interest group. If you said, "Hey, Simshot's starting a gun group. It's for like dads and their kids, and you have to be a gun owner who lives in Idaho."
Yeah.
We're gonna come here and not talk about guns. Like,
yeah, you're not going to go to a Pistol 1 class and learn about archery. Like, it's just
you're getting so you're going to an LGBTQ.
But if you would have volunteered, you would have known everything that was going on in there.
And oh yeah, that was my point earlier. I said if you go up to a Catholic priest, one of the ones who's the kid diddler type, and you said, "Hey, are you molesting a kid?" He'd be like, "You got me." Like the ones who, no one's going to admit to this. They
Yeah.
get caught doing it. No one's.
Yeah.
So this council, she said, "Hey, well, I asked them. They said they don't talk about sex." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's just close up." You know what I mean?
good
Like,
enough for me.
That's perfect.
hey, you hiding any Jews under the floorboard? Nope. Hey, they said they're not hiding anyone. We're out of here, guys.
Yeah.
Go to the, like, they're not going to admit to it. So I'm just saying, I wasn't accusing them of they did this, or I'm just saying, hey, we should,
You're trying
this
to
is going on in our
put
community.
eyes on
this.
it. Yeah.
We should be aware of it because it's completely unacceptable and inappropriate, in my point of view. So that's,
It's interesting. The Idaho Statesman article does arise some very serious concerns.
oh, yeah. What was
But
their
even
headline?
some other Republicans didn't agree with his concerns and assumptions or didn't respond to him. Perhaps another example of division within the Republican Party.
Nobody's
in the
denying
state.
that, statesman.
Yeah.
Lenny did not return 2 requests for comments.
Yeah. Some of them,
Would you like to comment?
the way they ask, I feel like I kind of just did.
I mean, it was pretty easy to get you on this show.
Some of
not
them,
hard.
some of them.
It was like 3 text messages from Rob.
So the way they ask the question. So I don't like doing interviews where I'm going to get on the phone. They're going to be like all these gotcha questions,
Yeah.
and I'm like
Oh, yeah,
driving
yeah.
on the
There's no
freeway.
point.
So I just say, email me the questions. That's what I've been doing for 2 years. I've never gone on TV.
Yeah.
Channel 7 invites me. I'm like, I don't want to be on your TV show. Just email me the questions, and you can be like, put a little text thing up. I don't want to do a, but usually I'll answer questions if they ask them in the right way.
Sure.
So I'm like, when you're I'm like, when she sent those questions over, there was like 7 questions, and each one of them was like, like, so when did you stop beating your wife? There were those I'm like, I'm not gonna respond because the way you ask these questions, you don't even care. You're just trying to get me in a gotcha.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
some reporters,
It's what they always want to do.
Yeah.
and when they ask questions too, the story's already written. They're
Yep.
just looking for one zinger quote from me.
Right.
So usually when I respond back, like I was in an article last week on DEI. So we have a plan to get rid of DEI
Hallelujah.
in Idaho. And I just gave them a 2-sentence response because anything more than that, they're not going to include anyway.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm not going to respond to your thing. And it's like, you're attacking libraries. I've had calls from like white liberal women this week, several calls. Some of them I put on Twitter because they're funny.
White liberal women, the most
And I called
the most affected group of people.
One of them
in
I
our
called.
country.
One of them I called back because
Did you hear this?
She left me a. Can we?
You should play
Here,
it in the.
I'll play the initial message because it's like just 20 seconds if I can find it.
Hilarious.
I think the mic should pick it up, but I called her back because she just called me. She called me, didn't leave her name, called me stupid, and then hung up.
I can't handle anyone who doesn't agree with me.
So I called.
so good.
I actually found out she was from Washington. Hold on, let's see which this one is here.
You're really stupid. So just, I don't know, leave the library alone. I want my kids to be able to read books. I want my kids to be able to meet with people. Just stop. Thanks. Bye.
So the part we missed is she said, "I'm a citizen of Nampa," and I called her back and I said, "Hey, I got your phone call. What is happening on my phone right now?"
All that fucking porn.
No. I called her back yesterday.
That's
Actually,
gonna get clipped.
What? All right, yeah, let's not ruin your career. All right, fuck, my bad.
I don't look at porn.
Yeah, it's mind
See,
virus
there you
right there.
clip that.
Clip that. You have to
I
clip
will.
that. Okay, we're just starting over right now.
New episode.
But I don't.
Good.
But I called her back and I said, "Hey, is this so and so? Yeah. Who's this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Brian Lenney. I got your message." She goes, "Brian Lenney, who?" I'm like, "Yeah, he called me yesterday and called me stupid and hung up." And she goes, "Oh yeah, that was me." Then the whole demeanor changed, and I'm like, so we had like a 6-minute conversation. I put the tail end of it on Twitter because I didn't. Who wants to listen to a 6-minute?
Yeah.
But I was just very calm. I'm like, so yeah. Well, why are you going after these groups and that? I'm like, these groups are going after kids. That's like if I come in a dark room and turn the light on. It's like, why'd you turn the light on? I'm like, I didn't. I just
Because
turned the
I
light
wanted
on.
to see.
I'm trying. People need to see.
Yeah.
Like people need to see what's going on in our city. But towards the end of it, she goes, "Well, I'm a Christian." I'm like, "Oh, so am I. That's great. Whatever." And then I found out she was from Washington. So she's like, "This godforsaken." I said, "I don't think it's very Christian of you to call me stupid and hang up on me."
Yeah.
And she said, "I'm just living the Idaho life. That's all. That's the way people have treated me since I've lived here, and that's the Idaho way." And I said, "Yeah, but," she goes, "this godforsaken state." I'm like, "Are you going to move back to Washington?" And she kind of paused, like, "How do you know I was from Washington?" I'm like, the internet. You can find stuff out. But she said, "Well, yeah, I don't plan on living in this like godforsaken state forever and backwards, whatever." And she goes, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not kidding you. I think it's a great state." And she goes, "Burn in hell," then hangs up. So I'm like,
So awesome.
you got this Christian lady telling me to
man.
burn in hell. I'm like, I'm a Christian. I would never tell anyone to burn in
No,
hell.
not at all. In fact, like if you really are a Christian and you believe in the gospel,
the last thing you
it
want.
It is the antithesis of what I believe.
Yeah.
Like I want you to find Jesus and not.
It's
burn
like
in hell.
news at 11. Christian lady tells
Jeremy.
Christian lady tells someone to burn in hell.
I'm perfectly content with finding out the hard way. All right.
My hot button right now is that legislators and Idaho government officials not going to back up Trump's picks if they're not vetted by the FBI.
I mean,
Which-
hey, a couple of these picks are questionable or proving
But
to be
here's-
Surgeon
questionable.
General and
Dude, the Surgeon General is the most egregious so far.
what's the other one that I was like, it was Surgeon General.
The AG is the AG replacement after.
There was another one though too.
after Gates got.
Oh, Department of Labor was someone who was like backing amnesty and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
From my
You know,
understanding,
I don't. On one side, I think it is good to have varying opinions so that productive conversation can be had. That being said, when there are very clear, definitive topics where they are on the wrong side, that's where you need to draw a line. Like
Yeah.
it's good to have people with varying ideas. It's how you create progress. It's when you have productive, thoughtful, articulate individuals with maybe similar goals but differing ideas as to how to get there. That's a good thing. But man, he's some of the the Surgeon General for me is a big one. She was masked, double masked, talking about vaccines for
COVID is-
kids.
vaccines are
Dude.
the
So
savior.
Pivot us into that then.
Oh, I figure we can just keep
That's what I
rolling.
figured,
We'll
too.
just roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had to take a little break. It's fine. I'll cut it in and make it sound natural. So it's all good. We took a break. We're back. We're trying to figure. We're talking about Trump's picks for cabinet and how some of them are kind of coming out to be questionable. I don't know, Rob, you were before we were.
Well, I had an issue with the AG this week.
Yeah.
So total big flag or red
The
flag.
blonde chick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was advocating for red flags, take the guns first, and then we'll get law
Is she
enforcement.
hot? She's a hot one.
Oh yeah, she's a good looking gal.
Come and take
But
it.
here's the thing though, and I said this
And
on
it's
our,
very California, though. That's exactly what they do in California.
Yeah.
And you are out thousands of dollars for somebody like me that's a collector that has lots of firearms.
Right.
That could bankrupt you.
I'm-
One, there's not a dealer that could take as many firearms that I have in my personal collection if I was to get a red flag law put on me.
I said this in our text thread. Look, she hasn't made any recent comment, and I would love to hear if she has changed her mind on any of these ideas and come to see, oh, this is actually bad. And the example I gave was Tulsi. Like, Tulsi did not have a fantastic track record on 2A topics, but she has come full circle to the other side.
Now she competes in the tactical games. and shit,
like,
dude.
you know what I mean? Like, she's really embraced the other side, and she has, I think, gone out of her way to educate herself and to see why people on
I'm
the
not
2A
saying
side
that
of the
people
aisle
can't change, but
no, and I agree.
there
but I
are
want to
certain things
hear
when you're in when you have that much power to make somebody's life difficult that's outside the Constitution, right? And there's no due process. I have
Yeah.
a real problem with that.
I totally agree. I mean,
Guns
red
are
flags
scary.
are. Yeah, I don't know what I mean. What's your
Well, I was stoked when they had Gates in there. We'll see how that shakes out, I guess.
I don't think Gates he's going to get appointed somewhere else. Is my
Well, he could be
is my
special
suspicion.
counsel and be like an attack dog in other ways. But the Attorney General, Surgeon General was a problem. What was he? I believe it was like his pick. I don't know the person's name. Department of Labor was someone who was from my understanding like pro amnesty and all. I'm like Department of Labor should be. But then you look at guys.
But his
then you look
ice
at like
pick
his
is,
border. Yeah, exactly.
Like
we're gonna
his
deport.
borders are.
We're gonna deport. What about families? Oh, just deport families together. That based quote where you're like, then the Snoop Dogg glasses fall down and you're
Yeah.
like. So I mean, his border guy's great, but I mean,
Pete Hegseth, he's an interesting pick. I did not expect.
How are you guys following all of this shit? My God, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Pete, I thought Pete was an interesting pick. That was way out of left field for me. I did not see that coming.
I bet you they're all fucking assholes.
can't all be assholes.
I don't know that he's an asshole, but I mean,
I think it's an interesting pick, but I think that he is looking for people that can get his agenda done, that has no swamp creature or water on them whatsoever, for the most part. And
For the
I just
most
don't
part,
think that's
it's-
the case, though. I mean,
Yeah, some of them seem kind of swampy.
Yeah,
I mean,
But it's
for
like
sure,
I don't know
think-
how you can. Sorry, go ahead.
No. There's so many things, right? Like the Elon, for example. Like,
And
dude, he's got
Vivek.
a lot to lose to be in this camp, right? And to do all these things, and he's being tasked to make the government smaller.
Yeah,
I mean,
him and
there's
Vivek.
so many things.
I think Elon's going to be pretty involved. I think Vivek is going to probably be. I don't know if they're like, are they peers? I don't know. Is one a superior over the other?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't
But,
even know
like,
if they know. how
Yeah,
it
I don't know
works.
if they know either. I think Vivek is probably going to be able to be more directly involved. Elon just has so much going on. You know,
Oh man, this chick wants our fucking guns.
is this
Which one?
Pam
Let me see.
Bondi or Bandy or
yeah.
whatever his name
She
is?
looks kind of gun grabby.
Yeah,
She is definitely.
She looks very Fox Newsy.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'm down with it. Like, it's a 2-beer kind of situation.
It's just crazy. So I don't think that somebody that advocates that strongly, openly, I don't think that they change their ways.
Yeah,
That's a lot of power grab, and that's a very AG. I mean, even to the state, the federal
Yeah.
government. I mean, this is very problematic.
I mean, AG of a state, that's a huge responsibility. I mean,
Yeah.
look what
Thankfully-
Kamala did in California.
yeah. Thankfully,
she
Idaho
destroyed
has
a lot of people.
She seems like a great individual.
Idaho has a pretty great AG.
What's his name?
Raul Labrador.
Raul.
yeah,
We
he's
have
awesome.
an actual
Labrador.
conservative AG. That's
Yeah.
Most AGs are, as you guys know, liberal. But I mean, like,
He, the gal who got arrested in Meridian.
Sarah.
I
Brady.
met
Sarah
her. I met her
Brady.
at that GOP fundraiser we went to.
Yep.
He ended up dismissing all of her cases, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
arresting a mom for going to the park.
Yeah,
Kind of
what a
egged him on
wild-
a little bit.
Sure.
You know, but at the same time, it's like, I can't go to the damn park with my kids. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
And like,
Yeah, that's a
in
real
what world
problem.
are we
Yeah.
not allowed to disagree with the cops?
Yeah. We're not. Thin blue line, bro.
I don't give a flying fuck.
What's your take on law enforcement in Idaho?
Well, we got to wrap this.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, we
He's
got.
like, all right,
You know what? Look,
No, I was just kidding. No, I have a lot of. I have a lot of. I have a lot of friends who are cops. A better way to ask. So, gosh, you know they have.
How do you want me to ask the question?
You loaded the gun for him.
Don't ask me that question.
Yeah.
Don't ask me that question.
I'll take over it. We're really lucky to have a lot of really great fucking
Yeah, no.
cops. Just don't go to Boise because you'll get shot.
Yeah. And, you know, we also have the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police,
Yep.
which is like the police union. They endorse 90% of the people they endorse are the most liberal person in the race. Democrats. So it's like
Every time.
FOP came at me pretty hard, and I was like, dude, we passed mandatory minimums on fentanyl.
Yeah.
We did this. We did that. Like, why
Why are you mad?
are you coming at me, bro? And they're like, well, they want to find the most pro-union. All they care about is union stuff. Same with the firefighters unions.
Yeah, they just want pensions, dude.
Pensions, collective bargaining, retirement. That's all they. So who gives unions everything they want? Democrats, liberals. So it is unfortunate because most firemen, people like actual firemen and cops, are conservative dudes.
Yep.
Then you get their union representatives and they just back the liberals. They just gave a very well. I guess if you're a Democrat in Idaho, you're pretty hardcore liberal. But you know, like I just pivoted us from. But the firefighters union gave the legislator of the year award to like a liberal Democrat, and so it's interesting. You have these cops and firemen, but pushing at high levels very liberal policies and liberal things. But most actual policemen and firemen are like good conservative dudes.
Yeah,
boots on the ground,
And
I
women.
don't know a single.
Those are the guys I work with. You know, every day in
Yeah.
California. You know, full transparency. People on our show know that, but like, even in California, cops, firefighters, vast majority are.
I don't have any law enforcement friends from the Bay Area or Idaho who are even slightly, in my opinion, liberal.
Samesies. Yeah, I mean, I know
Same with
we
the
all know a
firefighters.
lot of people in law enforcement, so it's unfortunate. And this is not. There was a guy. Somebody called me this summer, and they said, "Hey, this guy's a trucker, like a long, 18-wheel, like cross country, long haul trucker." He goes, "Hey, I was just at this meeting where the head of our truckers union was talking a bunch of shit about you," and I thought he meant like talking shit about Idaho. I'm like, "Oh, what?" And he goes, "No, you specifically." I'm like, "I don't even know what's the guy's name, whatever." He goes, "Yeah, your face was on a slideshow. Like, this guy's a problem in Idaho." I'm like, "Well, what did he say?" He goes, he's basically because we push back against the woke stuff. He didn't like that. And I'm like, but again, union guy, but the guy I knew, this trucker guy, he's like totally cool.
Yeah.
But the union guy, but that's we don't have time
how
to
it
go down
is.
that. That's unions everywhere. They're run by liberal guys at the top, but most people in them are pretty conservative, down to earth people.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another episode
Blue
with you
collar.
because I mean, there's too many. There's too many. I
There's
mean, we're
tons of
almost,
rabbit holes we could go
yeah.
down.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come in here today. I know we're
definitely.
nobody, but Idaho's #1 podcast and all. And you
I'm
came
not
in
going to
here.
refuse a chance to go. And you guys have is that a scar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can shoot those in like a lot of video games. So I've shot them in video games, but never in real life.
Yeah.
I'm about to
Hey,
take you
well,
to the range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll make a range day.
that'll be fun.
Speaking of
Range day with Brian Lenney.
Yep,
there we go.
done.
Yeah.
We can make
Sold.
that happen.
We can sell
Soon.
tickets.
I know a guy who's got a gun shop. So
Yeah, I know a guy who has a gun shop too. And if someone doesn't, if they're kind of maybe intimidated by like live fire, they could do like sim shot.
yeah.
Yeah, we actually just
That
had
wasn't
gal
even a
in.
paid placement. That was just
No, I
organic.
appreciate that.
That was
That
just
was-
organically.
yeah, no.
That was, I mean, it,
Plugs on
you're
point.
hired for sure.
gonna
Better
start
than
the-
my marketing team, which is just me and Nick, fucking posting shit online,
We're
hoping.
gonna start the no quarter pod pack. All proceeds to Brian Lenney.
I'll take it.
We actually just had a gal come in who she came in with one of her guy friends, and she has her whole life been like extremely anti-gun, hates guns, I mean, like back here with a sim gun, they have blue slides. They don't even reciprocate. She's just trembling.
Straight up killer now, huh?
No, not at all. Yeah, she can't win a gunfight at all. Yeah, she's not there yet, dude.
Okay.
1 hour with me is not that good. It's pretty good. Costs money, but no. But she left and was just like, these are not at all what I thought they would
Yeah.
be. Not necessarily just sim shot, just her overall understanding of just the functionality of a gun.
Yeah.
She had no fucking idea how they cycled, no idea
Well,
how
yeah,
they
they're
work,
evil.
and-
They're evil killing machines.
and that's
Yeah.
it. And I even had her use one of the ARs back there, and she was just like, "Wow, this is like so much more accurate and
Yeah.
like easier to shoot than the pistol." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
who would have thought?"
None of this gun here and none of the ones on the walls have killed anyone since we've been in here.
No, it's weird.
I feel okay. Yeah,
It's almost like a person has to do it.
it's weird how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's not a gun, it's a machete or whatever the hell else someone's going to pick up.
Well, I love that. Everyone's just like, America has the most mass shootings, and it's like you pull up Mexico and it's this dude getting his hand sliced
Yeah.
off.
You know,
in a fist
I'd
fight.
rather
You're
get
like,
shot
fuck.
any day than
yeah.
get machete hacked.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
100 times over. It's just so much faster and efficient.
Yeah.
The pain's done.
So how do people find
Yeah.
you?
That's great.
Well, I guess you could go look up Brian Lenney on X, formerly Twitter, as we know.
Twatter.
Pretty damn active on there. And then I don't have Facebook or anything else.
Is there like a
You can go to
an
vote.
official channel?
You can go to there's an official one. I don't post on it too much on X, but if you just put Brian Lenney, you'll find it. And then I have if you go to votelenny.com and it's LENNEY. That's like my website with just I have a lot of videos on there from floor debates and stuff because people are like, well, how do I know you're conservative? What about? I'm like, actually, that's funny you said that. Here's a video on this topic
Yeah.
or this topic
Yeah.
or this topic. So that's kind of like a hub at votelenny.com.
And are you taking donations or anything like that for your next campaign?
I mean, if I run again, yeah, that's in 2026. Yeah, I'm always taking donations, man. Unless it's from like Big Pharma or some of these other shitbag groups, that donation's going right back to where it came from. But I mean, it's you know, I always say like, it's let's see how I'm going to see how the next 2 years go before I decide if I want to run again.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also, you know, I don't want to do this forever. If someone in my district 13 in Nampa stepped up like where I'm at or to the right of me, I'd be like,
Do you have
roll
to
out the
live-
red carpet.
Do you have
Yeah.
to live in the district you run for?
yeah,
Oh,
yep. So
Maybe I'll move to Nampa.
it's pretty interesting.
I'm not
yeah.
living in Nampa.
But I mean, yeah, it's I enjoy, you know, joking around, but it's like I don't want to do this forever, but at the same time I'm like, if not me, then who? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do it until I lose an election or I feel like God wants me out, which
Yeah.
could be by me losing an election. So
Yeah.
I don't really like I said, I really mean it. I have zero political ambition. I make more money when I'm not doing this. Because then it frees up time to take on other clients in my actual business. But
Yeah.
I'm going to do it until I feel like I don't need to do it.
Well, I mean, coming as someone who genuinely hates government, I appreciate that there's at least like good down to earth dudes who are actually vocal about our like important hot topics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's always you hear someone like, yeah, well, like how do we know? Well,
Well,
Yeah.
and what's important too is expanding that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's great to have or to know that there's one or two,
yeah,
but one, getting to know your types of personalities and,
Yeah.
and those who are cut from the same cloth,
Yeah.
and then figuring out how to prop up people who are running in other districts and get them into office.
If you look at members of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, it's a whole group of not everyone's a total asshole like me, but there's a good group of conservatives, and we've kind of
yeah,
join forces,
you know we walk the walk
Yeah.
and talk the talk,
Yeah.
and you can see it in the
Actual
bills we
punk
bring
rock.
forward and how we vote and all that. So Idaho
That's
Freedom
awesome.
Caucus sounds really arrogant, but we like to think of ourselves as far as conservative politics goes in Idaho, kind of like tip of the spear.
yeah.
Tip of the spear, edge
Awesome.
of the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of fun and we're doing good shit and having fun at the same time. So
Fucking A.
pretty stoked.
I'm about that.
Cool.
I like it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
This is
you.
gonna be episode 19. It should be out. I'm gonna edit it up and all that. Hopefully tonight. We'll see how long we stay out, but tonight or tomorrow it'll be up this week. So
Perfect.
yeah, appreciate you coming on, Brian. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks, man.
fellas.
We'll see ya.